today to keep that run alive?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what we've been saying all along, at least the last few weeks, buddy. We've got to find a way to run the ball. And we haven't been able to do that, and we've won in spite of it. But we've got to get some mileage out of our backs and be able to run the ball. And we've got to be able to stop their run, too. It sounds simple, but it's been the same for years in this league. If you can play good defense stopping that run and run it yourself, your odds of winning are pretty good.
So the last couple of weeks you won without stopping the run.
Well, we stopped it last week pretty good now, the second time around against the Rams. So a similar type offense we're facing today. Robert Smith's a big play guy. He can score from anywhere. You know, and the other element that we got to throw in there is the crowd noise. We haven't had to deal with that. We've played 3 home games in a row. So we've pumped up the volume all week there in practice, and we tried to simulate it. What we'll face, in the dome, and it's hard to simulate that. So we're going to have to have great concentration and not shoot ourselves in the foot in key situations, because you've got to stay on side and use that noise, not let it be a factor.
Randy, I know the conventional wisdom is that it'll take you all a couple of drafts and free agency off-season to build the type of team that you want to build. But it's funny about the window of opportunity in this league. The Atlanta Falcons of '98 are a perfect example of that, of seizing the moment, because that moment might not come back, no matter how promising the future might look.
Well, there's no question you have to seize the moment, buddy, and a lot of us that have been in this business a long time. 1983 was my first year in the league, and it was Chuck Knox's first year in Seattle. We went all the way to the AFC Championship, and after that, I would have bet you a lot of money we would be back and back and back again, and we never did make it all the way back. So you do have to seize the moment. You have to enjoy it. And your players have to understand that each day while you're making a run like this, it's very important to keep that focus and concentration. But, I do feel like we're still a ways away. I know our guys are playing well together, and there are guys on this team that are earning jobs for down the road, and that's exciting.
Where do you feel the Vikings can be most vulnerable today?
Well, I would hope we'd be able to move the ball on them. Their secondary has been a little suspect throughout the last 3 weeks. They've lost 3 games in a row. People have thrown the ball on them a little bit. The corner position seems to be one that's given them a little bit of problem. They cut Chris Dishman earlier in the year, so they've made some personnel changes back there. I would hope we can move the ball a little bit on them.
What about where you might think the Saints will be most vulnerable?
Well, it's kind of what we just said. We've struggled to run the ball, and I think if we put all the pressure on Aaron to make plays and throw the ball all the time, that's going to come back to haunt us. But, I still think that the basics are run it and stop it, and you got a chance.
Of course, time of possession figures in there, too, because if you can run the ball, you might be able to win the time of possession battle, and that's very important with an offense like the Vikings have.
No question. We've got to have a similar philosophy that we've had the last couple of weeks, in that we've got to reduce their possessions. If we can keep them to 8 or 9 possessions today, I think we have a chance. But if you give it to them 10, 11, 12 times, they're going to score points. That's a fact, because that's what's happened all year long. And, we've got to find a way to reduce those possessions for them.
The first week or two that Ricky Williams was lost, Chad Martin provided the spark a lot, and it seemed that he was the outside threat, and that kind of made the running game go. But since he's been, limited as far as carries are concerned, it stopped.
Well, he's really been limited, buddy, because of the injury, his shoulder. He sprained his shoulder, and that's really been killing him for over a month now. And last week was the first week he felt, reasonably healthy again. That's why we had him back on punts, and he was able to resume some of those duties. But I would look for us to use him quite a bit, especially on turf, and those are some areas where he can, like you say, run outside and give us some plays out in space. And I would think with him being healthy again now, you'll see some of him today.
I know you watched the Orange Bowl earlier this week, and it shows you what a defensive game plan like Bob Stoops has can do, even though it's, was unexpected to have that much success.
Unbelievable. What a great job. I would have bet you a lot of money that Florida State was going to handle them. And again, that goes to show you sometimes it's not the most talented group that wins. It's playing together. It's having a game plan. It's executing the game plan, and guys battling every day. And that's, again, more proof that, it can happen if you believe in it and work hard.
If Joe Horn doesn't go, it doesn't go at 100%. Maybe the Willie Jackson factor will figure in again. And, man, again, reflecting on that acquisition, I know it came in late April, and maybe Jeff Blake was kind of pushing for it, huh?
Well, no question. It's a good gift for us. Willie's a guy that has had a checkered past, had three stops before he got here. Jeff was really familiar with him. And, of course, most of us have come from the AFC, so we've seen him off and on the last few years in Cincinnati. He obviously stepped up last week to, to help us get where we are now. And if Joe can't go, he's going to have to do it again. We'll have Keith Poole back, I think, so that looks good. And we got to find a way to make some plays. And those guys have been making them, so I don't doubt them at all.
The other amazing factor, Aaron Brooks.
Well, Aaron played a game last week that 2 weeks ago that we thought he may have at some point. Didn't play so well, but last week in the second Ram game, he obviously stepped it up. And he's a guy that's going to have to carry us. We want to run the ball, but he's still got to make the decisions on third down. And where he comes into effect is in that red zone and third down where we can keep that time of possession. We've got to convert on third downs. And he made good decisions last week. He ran when he should. He dumped it off when he should. And hopefully he'll make those same kind of decisions, because if he does, I like our chances.
Randy, it's been exciting. Let's hope it continues to be exciting.
Let's go, buddy. Let's get one more, huh?
One more, then two more.
There you go. I'm with you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
The all-new home of the Saints, Tulane and LSU, WWL 870 AM. Saints football is coming up on your New Orleans Saints radio network. Now, as we approach the kickoff, here's more of the countdown.
Welcome back to the Metrodome, everyone. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves right here on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader. Now, in the tunnel with Jim Haslett. The last words from the coach with Jim Henderson.
Jim, how will Ricky Williams be used today?
He's not going to start, but we're going to put him in early and then see how he performs, and then we'll go from there.
In what way might he be limited?
Well, obviously his leg. I mean, I'm going to see, how timid he is, if he or he isn't, and then we'll base everything off of how he looks.
Would you at all leave him on the sideline if your running game's doing well, and maybe perhaps use him just for the psychological boost that he might provide in coming into a game?
Well, I don't know if there's a psychological boost, but if our running game's doing well with Terry and Gerald, then we'll just go as we have for the last 2 months.
And how about Joe Horn?
Joe will not play today. He's his foot's still bothering him, and hopefully we get by this game and he'll be ready next week.
I know that has to be emotional for him as much as he wants to contribute in this sort of situation.
Well, it's a shame. The guys, really worked extremely hard to get to this point, and it'd be nice if we had him at least during this division championship.
Compare, if you would, the running styles of Robert Smith with Marshall Faulk.
Well, I think they're totally different. Robert's a long strider, a guy that hits the hole hard, and if he gets through the line of scrimmage, he's hard to tackle in the secondary. Marshall's more of a dancer, slasher type guy that bounces from hole to hole, tries to get outside. So they're two different guys. One's bigger than the other, and this guy's a good football player. He's got the most yardage rushing in the league this year, so we'll have our hands full.
And in comparing their offense with the Rams, less motion, fewer multiple wide receiver sets?
Well, there's a lot of, I think it's totally different. They both got great skilled people, and this team has a very good offensive line and a mobile quarterback, which St. Louis really didn't have, but they give you a lot less complications, so it'll be a good matchup.
The injury to Dante Culpepper, does that influence your game plan at all? And do you think that he'll be limited at all out there as far as his ability to run the ball and move around?
Well, I think that's key. We really don't know right now at this point. And if he is limited, obviously we can do a little bit more. And if he's not and he's running around, you got to be careful in what stuff we run against him.
How about their defense? How would you characterize their defense? They blitz much?
Well, it's a game-to-game thing. Sometimes they blitz, sometimes they play soft. They're kind of vanilla sometimes. Other times they do a lot of different things. So I think that's another thing we have to feel out early in the first quarter, how they're going to attack us.
They've had some problems on their corners. They oftentimes have played off. Do you expect to see the corners playing off a lot?
Well, again, we don't know. They early in the season they mixed up and played bump and played off. So I'm sure we'll get a mix.
When you play against last week, these guys had the week off. You guys play. In any ways, is it to your value, in your best interest to have played, the fact that you stay on schedule, and also that you've got that playoff win behind you now? If you'd had the week off, that would still be hanging over your heads.
I don't know. It's hard to figure all these things out. People want to analyze, well, if during the bye week they put everything together. I don't know if that's true. I don't know exactly how that works. We feel good about our situation. We're glad we're playing, and obviously we would love to have that bye week like everybody else, but I'm sure they're going to be refreshed, and we got to withstand the onslaught early.
Dennis Green is quoted as saying, the most physical football teams win in the playoffs. It would seem that yours is the more physical football team today.
We like to play that style of football. We like to play physical and tough, and I think. But the other thing, you have to be smart and control the football this week. You can't put the ball on the ground and have turnovers and penalties, and that's the stuff that'll kill you in the playoffs. And if we can handle the football and handle the crowd noise, I think we'll have a good shot.
Best of luck today.
Thank you, Jim.
Welcome back to the Dome, everyone. Larry Matson with you along with Hokie Gajan. And a reminder that you can look as sharp as the Saints by visiting the new Porter Stevens. Porter Stevens, now known for style, has Hugo Boss, Kenneth Cole, and Hart Schaffner. Shop at Porter Stevens in the Lakeside Mall and look like the Saints. The Saints are looking pretty doggone good. Where no Saints team has ever gone before, Hokie.
Yeah, you're right, Larry. I mean, they don't. These are definitely uncharted waters for them. But they're professionals. I mean, they know what it takes. So, if there's one good thing about it, the Saints do have some players on the team that have some playoff experience, and I'm sure that they were the guys that the players were leaning on during the week, to kind of get them prepared for this second go-around in the playoffs. Guys like Andrew Glover, Jake Reed, Darren Smith, Darren Perry, they've been there before, so you got some guys on both sides of the ball, that can kind of lend a helping hand, so to speak.
They talk about this being the loudest place in the National Football League, but the Saints did play here in August, and they did experience that sound.
Well, yeah, but let me tell you something. There's a totally different sound for a preseason game.
They're going to go up a couple octaves here, right?
Yeah, as opposed to a playoff game. So, it'll definitely be different crowd noise. And this Vikings bunch, they're accustomed to being in the playoffs, and they know what the home field advantage means to them, and they're going to get loud, and they're going to get loud early. The big thing is, Saints, especially when they're on offense, you can't get out there and get rattled by it.
They had some snowmobile races down on the turf before the game today, early before the teams actually arrived here. As a little pregame fun, I guess. They had about 10 little race cars. They look like midget race cars, the snowmobiles. They had them rolling around on the floor and all. And just a different kind of mindset up here. There's snow outside, but it's going to be heating up in here, no doubt about it. Both teams are still on the floor right now, warming up, getting ready for this one. Your thoughts as you go into uncharted waters here? I know you'd like to be down there suited up today, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, but it's been so long since I put on a uniform, Larry. I don't think I could put one on now. I've forgotten how. But, there again, everything that, that I've reflected on this year, is based on my experience as a player. That was something that it never got to the playoffs as a player, and certainly never got to the second round of the whole thing. So, I think what these guys got to do, they just got to get the mindset that, we've got to do what we've done all season long. It's pretty well, an us against the world thing, and just come out here. My Vikings fans are going to be going berserk and going crazy, but you got to look back and you got to draw on your experience when you were in St. Louis and played them on their home field. We got pretty loud out at 3Com Park out in San Diego or San Francisco. So you just got to block all that stuff out and go out there and play football.
I know that Saints fans all over the country listening today and enjoying this one, and with WWL streaming as we do, I want to say hello to Mark and Crystal Blades at 162 Mayor out there in Boys Town, Nebraska. My son Daniel, he's listening to the game with that crew, and they're cheering the team on today. They're going to watch it on TV and listen to it on radio, just like we ask people to do.
That's right, Daniel. Y'all cheer us good and loud now. We're gonna need some support around here.
That's right. The Vikings, they've been here before, but you know what? I've got to think that it plays on them a bit that Dennis Green is only 3-7 in postseason.
Right, and that's the one thing that, even in the lobby this morning when we were waiting to come down here talking to a couple of the Vikings fans, and even the fans that we talked to last night, these people, they know that they have never gotten over the hump. They feel like there's almost a jinx on them that, okay, we can get into the playoffs. We've done it 8 out of the last 9 years, but we really can't continue on. And it's not like their fans around here are just, bubbling over with enthusiasm. They're kind of sitting there playing devil's advocate on this whole thing, thinking the Saints could be the spoiler for their football team this season.
All right, Hokie, have a good one with Jim today.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, it's going to be fun, and that's going to do it for Countdown to Kickoff. Stay tuned. The pregame show is next, right here on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Looking to save money.
everybody, from the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is Jim Henderson. Well, here in the Metrodome today, the Vikings have a decided edge in playoff experience, but the Saints have tasted victory in them most recently. The Vikings have more regular season victories than the Saints, but none in their last 3 games. The Vikings failed to win a game in the month of December and haven't tasted victory since November 30th. The Saints have won 3 of their last 4, including last week's thrilling playoff victory over the Rams. The Vikings have rest and health on their side. The Saints have momentum and the growing belief that they are a team of destiny, which nothing and no one can stop. Whether it's the Lucky Road white jerseys or Hokie's lucky Winnie the Pooh road underwear, there is the feeling that something or someone is watching over and watching out for this team. It defies close scrutiny and rational explanation. The odds makers have the Saints as touchdown underdogs again, but having let these dogs into the playoffs, they won't easily be put out on the porch. The Vikings have their triplets in Culpepper, Moss, and Carter, for whom the Saints have no comparable equals. But the belief is there that these Saints are blessed with their own triplets, and all the true believers know that's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The pregame show will continue after these messages on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
WWL 870 AM.
Well, Mike McCarthy's offense put up 31 points last week in that victory over the Rams. This week he won't have Joe Horn at his disposal, but he will have a limited Ricky Williams back. And Mike sat down with our Kenny Wilkerson this week.
Is this the biggest game that you've ever prepared for and going to be coaching in? What do you think?
Well, fortunately, I've been in some big playoff games, but yeah, I would have to answer to your question is yes. You know, I think this whole season's been special. So this is a big game for us, and obviously we want to keep going in the 4-game tournament. This is game number 2.
Interesting that the attitude simply after the game the other day was great. Good to get the win. Got a lot of work still left to do.
Well, I think that shows the character of our football team. You know, we won a football game, but we know we can play better. And you know, we had a chance to put a team away that we had on the ropes, and we didn't get that done from an offensive standpoint. So you know, we can learn from that. It's nice to be able to still have another week to play and still learn from your mistakes. And that's the approach we've taken. Because you know, once again, we've talked about it all year. We need to just continue to get better, and then that's been our approach week in and week out.
Aaron played well, didn't he?
He played well in the big play area. You know, there's some game management issues that kind of popped up that we needed to be better at. But for so far, I mean, to win in a playoff game as a quarterback, you have to play well.
All right, this Viking defense that you're going against, how do they compare to what you've seen maybe just in the last couple of weeks with the Rams?
They're not as aggressive as the Rams as far as their scheme. You know, we kind of saw, we played the Rams 3 times. We kind of saw 3 different types of defense, you know, where the defensive coordinator changed for one, and then, you know, they're approaching game 2 as opposed to game 3. So it doesn't look like from a pressure standpoint that the Vikings do as much as the Rams, but, you know, that doesn't mean that they won't come in and take pressure as their approach, because, you know, they're coming off an off week. And, you know, when a team has an off week, you pretty much got to expect anything.
Yeah, and also at the same time, this is and it's not like you haven't been in loud stadiums, but this is as loud as any of them, if not louder.
It's a very loud stadium, no doubt about it. You know, playoff time in the Dome Stadium, it's obviously going to be loud. And, you know, we haven't played on the road now for about 3 or 4 weeks, but, you know, some we've practiced all year with our silent count and so forth. So, you know, we've addressed it, and we'll be ready to go.
They have to be very disciplined, everybody all the way across the line, right?
Oh, the focus and discipline is critical, because we need to play. You know, the crowd noise is obviously to their advantage, but you know, once again, we've been in this situation half the year, and that's part of playing on the road.
And part of everything else that's happened this year, again, you'll need other players to step up, because you'll be without receivers now.
Well, you know, that's been our, you know, that's been kind of our battle cry all year. So I mean, here we go again. So it's nothing that we're not used to. So I would say we have some experience at this particular area, and we'll step up and do it again.
You like your chances?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. We're very confident in our plan. We're very confident in our players. We like our matchups. And once again, if we take care of business, I think everything will turn out just fine Saturday.
Well, the challenge will be huge once again for the Saints defense. This week taking on Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Dante Culpepper, Robert Smith and company. Ron Zook, the architect of that defense, sat down with Kenny Wilkerson as well this week.
All right, how do these guys compare offensively to the team that you just saw the last 2 weeks? They're awful good. The team we saw the last 2 weeks was number 1. These guys are number 5. So, I mean, it's very, very comparable. They got a great running back, great receivers, a quarterback that's outstanding, and a better offensive line. So we're going to have our A game today, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
A different style of receivers. I mean, they can run, yes, but they're also a lot bigger.
Bigger, and then obviously that'll present some problems because we're not the biggest in the secondary. So they got the speed, but as you mentioned, the size is going to be very critical that we get up and get into them.
At the same time, Ron, how much do you go back to the success that you guys have had this year against the bigger receiving corps? I mean, San Francisco lines up some big guys, Arizona lined up some big guys, and y'all did fairly well against them.
Well, our guys don't worry about what size they are, how fast they are. We go out and play, and we play our game, and we can't worry about what they are or what they have. We have to go out and do what we do, and that's the one thing that we've been able to do all year, and hopefully we can do it again this year.
At the same time, it can be very dangerous, like the Rams, that if they don't have their passing game working, Robert Smith will kill you.
Absolutely, and we got to stop the run. We got to make them one-dimensional, and obviously that gives the defense a chance to be successful, and that's our plan today.
I know that you guys went into the game last week because at home and the crowd was going to be so loud, going more to a lot of hand signals. Do you stay with that and keep that since it works and it was able to keep everybody in the right position?
Well, you have to do that. I mean, obviously the noise factor won't be quite as much as it is at home, but still you have to be able to communicate, and the hand signals are the best way of communicating, and that's what our guys feel comfortable with. So that's how the majority of the communication will take place.
Feel good about things?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to get going there. I really am. And these players are excited to play, and I think they feel good about themselves. They know it's going to be a stiff challenge, and let's kick it off.
That is Ron Zook, defensive coordinator. We bring in Hokie Gajan now. And Hokie, I was down in the locker room after Joe Horn had tested that ankle. He came back in. He was sitting in his locker, and they told him, you just can't go on it. And he recognized the fact. He was sitting there with tears streaming down his face, and the other players on the team came over and put their arms around him. That's how emotional this guy is, and that's how much he wanted to play in this game. And certainly he'll be missed, but the Saints in the past have shown they can take up the slack when they lose most everybody.
Well, last week when he got hurt down there on the sidelines, Kenny reported that before they took him into the locker room right after the injury had happened, he had tears coming down his face. I mean, Joe's played all his life for that game last weekend and for a game like this weekend, and the fact that you can't be a part of it just kills you inside. So you got to appreciate that honest emotion that Joe had when you see him out there in the field and he's all hyper and everything else. I mean, he is without question the emotional leader of this football team, and that is the reason that he feels so bad, because in his mind he feels like he's letting his teammates down, and that is certainly not the case, because this is a legitimate injury, and Joe is he's just feeling awful that he can't be out there and participate today.
It's a difficult question to answer, but what do you think Ricky Williams can contribute today, given how long he's been off?
Well, a lot of it is going to depend on, just how much Ricky has been able to do the last couple of weeks. We haven't been privy to be out there at practice and watching. Everything you hear is hearsay. So, the coaching staff is going to give you enough information. They're going to give you just what they want you to hear. So we really don't know. To watch Ricky running around in the pregame warm-up, he looked fine. There was no noticeable limp. He never did really take it and go full bore. But what we'll have to see is just how he comes out there when he does get in there on that first live snap, just to see how much zip he's still got in his legs. His legs should be fresh, but we don't know how the foot and the ankle feel for him. Let's take it right down to Kenny Wilkerson with an Abita Springs, Florida Saints Sideline report. Kenny?
Pretty loud down here, guys, like it was during the preseason, and we'll see what the Saints can do to take this crowd out. And they won't be able to keep them out the whole game, but I'm sure that they're going to do their best to take them out from time to time. This team looks a lot like they did last week from a standpoint of coming out just now. Very much game faces, the looks on their faces. They don't look overconfident. They don't look cocky or anything like that. They just like they're ready to play a football game. Ricky Williams is going to go. Ricky Williams has had a good week. Don't be surprised to see Ricky Williams out there doing a lot of blocking as well. The keys to this game, according to the players and the coaches that I've talked to in the last hour, Joe Johnson has got to have a good day against Stussy. They feel like he will be able to have a good day, but that's very important for Joe Johnson to be coming off that side and get after Culpepper. On the other side, it comes down to Aaron Brooks. Yes, Willie Jackson, Ricky Williams, all those type of situations. Andrew Glover, it does make a difference. It does give him them a different aspect of the game offensively with Ricky in the game. But it comes down to Aaron Brooks in this game. He's had a good week. He looks the same. He looks very confident. Not much rattles this guy. We'll see if this crowd here in the Metrodome does get to him. They don't think it will. He doesn't think it will, but, you can say a lot of things until they actually go out there and do it. That's the only way to prove it. With that, I'm going to send it back upstairs to you guys.
All right, Kenny, thank you very much. We look forward to your comments and contributions throughout the course of this afternoon. The pregame show will continue after these messages on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Over time, you've worked hard to build equity in your home. At Hibernia, we work hard to build equity in relationships so we can offer solutions that fit your needs, like Hibernia Home Equity Loans. They offer competitive rates, and for a limited time, we'll waive normal application fees and closing costs. Apply today at www.hibernia.com. Call 1.
News Talk and Sports Leader is WWL 870 AM.
Vikings just about to be introduced. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the News Talk and Sports Leader.
Here's the referee starting lineup brought to you by Dr. Henry Haley of the Eye Surgery Center, specializing in laser vision correction. The referee today will be Walt Coleman. The umpire is Jeff Rice. Head linesman John Schlayer. Line judge Mark Steinkircher. Field judge Al Jury. Side judge Larry Rose. Back judge Bill Levy. And the replay man will be Rex Stewart. We sure hope these refs have seen Dr. Henry Haley, and I hope somebody can hear me. This place is loud. Back to Jim. All right, Larry, thank you very much. Well, here we go. Matchup of second and third NFC seeds. The winner plays at New York or hosts Philadelphia next week. The paper today was calling this the Battle of the Car Dealers. Tom Benson against Red McCombs, longtime associates, competitors, and yet friends in Texas, and now competitors and friends in the NFL.
Well, I tell you one thing. I read the other day where this little friendly feud, so to speak, with these two guys has gone back since like maybe the 50s or 60s or something. This is the one Tom Benson right now would dearly love to bring home to win this particular battle today.
Well, Jim Haslett said it to me in the locker room. He said we have to be prepared to withstand the onslaught. At some point in this game, and probably early, with the talent on this Vikings team, they have the capacity to score and score quickly. It's quite likely you're going to find yourself behind, perhaps early, perhaps by as many as 14 points. But you've got to remember it's a 60-minute ball game, and that emotion is not going to last throughout the game.
No, and I think it has it. What he's saying right there is that, if you get behind the 8 ball early, guys, it's not over with. We have the opportunity to come back and fight back in this football game, and they'll try and do it just exactly the way they did against the Rams in their first meeting with the Rams, and that's control the clock and keep that Vikings offense off the field.
Chris Carter just being introduced along with his offensive teammates. Dante Culpepper now being introduced. And it'll be interesting to see how well he'll be able to play on that damaged right ankle, that high ankle sprain from which he's trying to come back after a week's worth of rest. He has said that it doesn't hurt him pushing off straight ahead, but it does bother him when he tries to sprint out of the pocket. And as the Vikings have been introduced, there's almost a scuffle as they run toward the Saints sideline. The officials are over there separating some of the Saints from some of the Vikings.
And you can see Jim Hadlett's out there too. He's trying to let his players know, don't be intimidated by this bunch, but let's not do something foolish right here to begin this ball game.
Well, you get a packed house here for these Vikings, and yet this is a Viking team that lost its last 3, a team that's been in the playoffs 8 of the last 9 years, but has still fallen short of the Super Bowl. You get a feeling that the Viking fans want to believe, but they're almost afraid to, given the disappointment they've had in the playoffs.
Well, I think I could put it all in a nutshell. This morning when we got in the cab from the hotel coming over here, the cab driver, we were talking to him, me and Kenny Wilkerson, and he said, I think the Saints will win today. And, he said, why is that? And he said, because the Vikings defense sucks. He said they can't stop anybody. And really, everybody around town says the same thing. These guys gave up a ton of yards in those last 3 ball games. They were outscored 104-67 in those final 3 football games. And they know that come playoff time, your defense has to rise to the occasion.
And this is a defense that was 28th during the regular season. This is the worst defense that remains in the playoffs. And this is the most imbalanced team that remains in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Saints have the best balance. Well, the captains are meeting playing at midfield. Joe Johnson is down there for the Saints. Leroy Glover, Chris Oldham, Jerry Fontenot, and Willie Roaf. McDaniel is down there along with Griffith, Chris Carter, and also Robert Smith. Many of the former Vikings, people like Jim Marshall, Mick Tingelhoff on hand as well. Here's the toss of the coin. It's executed by referee Walt Coleman.
His choice is tails. It is a tails. New Orleans won the toss, will receive.
Let's go right down to Kenny Wilkerson with the Beer Springs Water Saints sideline report. Kenny?
All right, guys, this is going to be a war. I don't know if you guys could tell what was going on up there when they were introducing the Viking players, but the Saints players were out there taunting and trying to do everything they can to intimidate them. As this place got louder, they got louder amongst themselves. They were beating on each other. They're dancing, hollering, and screaming, and they were out there trying to intimidate these Viking players. Jim Haslam had to come out and almost kind of refrain them, but then it looked like he kind of got into it and was telling Viking players things himself. These are two teams, and it's not like the Saints and the Rams last week, but it looks like already they've set the tone that they don't like each other, and the Saints look to be extremely cranked up, more cranked up than we've seen all year. Jim, Hokie?
Well, the Vikings are not known as a physical football team. They're more out of the mold of the Rams, a finesse team. The Saints, meanwhile, fancy themselves as being very physical. Dennis Green said this week, it's usually the physical teams that win in the playoffs.
But, you know, Jim, what it is, I mean, it's kind of a total reversal of what the Rams were a few years ago, because they were a dominating defense and they had an offense that was just good enough. But ever since, like, guys like Randy Moss and Robert Smith and Chris Carter's been here for a long time, Dante Culpepper, they've kind of gone the other way, as you said, the Rams. They're an explosive offensive team, but very porous on defense.
Mitch Berger, the punter, who usually kicks off for the Vikings, has had a pulled groin. There was some doubt that he could kick off, though he would point. Gary Anderson was perhaps going to kick off, but instead it is Mitch Berger who will do so. He steps into the football, and we are underway. Fred McAfee returns it from his 1, across the 10, over the 15, across the 20, 25, stacked up as he crosses the 30-yard line. One of the Vikings coming downfield was just cartwheeled in the air by a Saints blocker. The tackle was executed by Walsh, and the Saints will have it 1st and 10, moving left to right as we view it, and they will start at their own 32-yard line. Now, in this recent slump of the Vikings, the losses in their last 3 regular season games, the opponents all scored on their first drive, scoring touchdowns. It was a 31-yard return for McAfee, and the Saints opened 1st and 10 from their 32-yard line, and you can hear the noise building already. Backs are offset. Wideouts left and right. Terry Allen gets the call against his former mates, running straight ahead, and he might have picked up 2 at best. Willie Jackson and Jake Reed open at wide receiver. The tight end is Andrew Glover. William Rofe, Wally Williams, Jerry Fontenot, Chris Nioli, and Kyle Turley are the offensive line in front of Aaron Brooks. Terry Allen opens at halfback and Brian Milne at fullback. It's a pickup of 2, and it brings up 2nd and 8 from the New Orleans 34-yard line. Jake Reed splits out wide to the right. Jackson wide left. And now the Saints will go to a 4 wide receiver formation with 2 tight ends in the slot. Brooks up under center. Going to throw a quick pitch out to the left side to Jackson. And he is going to be ridden down by the cornerback over there, Robert Tate, with 2 other Vikings converging. It'll be a short gain on the play. On defense for the Vikings, John Randall, Chris Hovan, Tony Williams, and Talon Sawyer up front. The linebackers are Dwayne Rudd, Kylie Wong, and Ed McDaniel. Robert Tate, the corner who was in on that stop, along with Waswa Suwenga. The strong safety is Robert Griffith, and the free safety is Orlando Thomas. It was a pickup of 3, and it brings up 3rd and 5 from the New Orleans 37 as Brooks goes into the shotgun. Saints with 4 wide receivers. Poole is one of them. He comes in motion left to right. Snap is back. Brooks over the middle behind Poole and incomplete. Up at the 40-yard line as the Vikings were coming up the middle. Blitzing Kenny Wright, one of the people out of their secondary, and so it's 3 and out for this Saints offense.
Well, the blitz that came right there from the corner and from the middle made Aaron Brooks rush that through. Keith Poole was wide open. I don't really know that Keith got deep enough to get the first down, but it made him rush the throw, and he threw the ball behind Keith.
Snap is back to going. A wobbly punt will be fielded by Walters at his 26, running to the far sideline. Now cutting it back against the grain. He's across the 35 and up to the 36-yard line, where he is brought down by Phil Clark. So that's where this powerful Minnesota Vikings offense will put it in gear. An offense that finished 6th overall running the football, 10th passing it during the regular season, 8th overall. It has a wealth of people at the skill positions who can burn you and hurt you quickly. The Saints will have to withstand the onslaught, as Jim Haslett said. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 36. They open with 4 wide receivers and Robert Smith behind Dante Culpepper. He puts Walsh in motion right to left. Culpepper going to drop straight back. Throw over the middle. Catch is made by Chris Carter. He is ridden down immediately by Fred Thomas, who comes away with the football, but they're going to rule him down by contact across the 40-yard line. Sammy Knight comes up and gets in the face of Carter as Thomas protests.
Jim, the Saints opened up and what looked like a dime defense that time. They had all secondary people, no linebackers in there, and just their front 4. So they're expecting the Vikings to come out throwing the football.
It's a pickup of 9 and brings up 2nd and 1. The football's nose on the 45-yard line of Minnesota. They will stack 3 receivers to the right, 1 to the left, pitch it to the right to Smith. Smith turns it up, and he's hit at the line of scrimmage and upended. Looks like he picked up the first down. Kevin Mathis, who's such a sure tackler in the open field, gets him around the ankle, but he doesn't prevent Robert Smith from picking up the first down. Moss and Carter, the wide receivers. Johnny McWilliams is the tight end. Todd Stussy, Corbin Messina, Matt Burke, David Dixon, and Corey Stringer, the offensive line. Dante Culpepper is the quarterback. Robert Smith opened at the running back position. Jim Kleinsasser is the fullback who will play in this game. Pickup of 2 brings up 1st and 10 at the Viking 47, just underway in a scoreless first quarter. 3-step drop. Culpepper throwing down the near sideline to Moss. He's free inside the 30, inside the 20, inside the 10, inside the 5. He will score.
Well, there's just quick strike offense. Saints came out there, didn't get any pressure on Culpepper. Just a plain old 2 deep safety back there. Culpepper lays it in perfect to Moss. He makes the cut to the inside, and it's a foot race that Randy Moss is going to win every time.
A 53-yard strike to Randy Moss, who led the NFL with 15 touchdown receptions during the regular season. As the Vikings strike quickly and very early on in this game, the Saints have the opportunity, as Jim Haslett would like to put it, to withstand the onslaught as they trail, with the extra point here attempted by Anderson with a flag down. The kick is up and through, but it's going to be blown dead. This will not count. Anderson, 45 out of 45 regular season extra points, 22 out of 23 in the field goal department. But this penalty negates the extra point. Illegal procedure against the Vikings, a 5-yard penalty, so they'll do it from 5 yards deeper. Have a chance to set the Saints defense that wasn't on the field all that long for you. Howard, Hand, Glover, and Johnson up front. Smith, Mitchell, and Fields the backers. Molden and Mathis the corners. Sammy Knight and Darren Perry are the safeties. And so the Vikings very quickly show the danger that they possess on the periphery. And if you wanted to take the crowd out of this game, Hope, that was not the way to do it.
Not the way to do it. I mean, it was just, it was 3 plays and they were in the end zone.
With Berger holding, Anderson's extra point is up and through. And with 11:57 to play in quarter number 1, the Vikings on a 53-yard strike from Culpepper to Moss lead the Saints 7-0. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
WL 870 AM.
This week, Allstate Insurance Company's Saints Performance Award winner is Jimmy Tarleton of Metairie, Louisiana. Call Jimmy Tarleton of Metairie and of Allstate, or stop by and discover why being in good hands is the only place to be. Allstate Insurance Company.
In just 3 plays in 1 minute and 20 seconds, the Vikings travel 64 yards, the last 53. An aerial between Culpepper and Moss for the touchdown as they take a 7-0 lead over the Saints, who must regroup on the sideline defensively and settle down offensively, pending this kickoff by Berger.
Well, the thing that you don't like to see is that the Saints defense is picking up exactly where it left off last weekend, meaning the fourth quarter of that ball game against the Rams, where they just kind of move the ball at will and gain yards in big chunks. So Saints are going to definitely have to tighten up on defense.
Here's Mitch Berger, who's upset in that he was not selected for the Pro Bowl as the NFC punter. Instead, they went to Scott Clair of the Arizona Cardinals. Berger steps into the football, and McAfee will field it at his goal line, across the 5 to the 10. He's up to the 15, hits short of the 20, bounces off that tackle, and eventually gets up to the 20-yard line before he is swarmed over by about 5 of the Vikings.
The Vikings have some very good special teams unit, both coverage-wise and return-wise. You saw right there, a lot of purple jerseys got down that field. Fred had very little room to run, virtually no space over there on the sidelines.
There was a 20-yard return. Gary Zauner, the special teams coach of the Vikings. And the Saints will start from their 20-yard line, trailing the Vikings 7-0 with 11:45 to play in the first quarter. Again, if you're just joining us, Joe Horn inactive today. We expect to see Ricky Williams. We did not in the first series. 2 wideouts to the right, 1 to the left. Backs offset behind Brooks. It is getting very loud, and Brooks is signaling to his wide receivers with hand signals up around his helmet. Brooks drops straight back. Now rolls a bit to his right. Throws it off his back foot. He's got Wilson deep. Wilson interfered with. It's incomplete. But this is going to be a penalty that will give the Saints the ball inside the 40-yard line of the Vikings.
Best thing that Aaron Brooks could do. He came out of the pocket. He was getting some pressure. He saw Robert Wilson going deep, and he threw the ball up. It was, if he throws it out there a little bit further, Robert might catch that thing in stride and take it all the way. Defensive back had no choice but to...
29. Defense.
That is against Waswa Serwenga, the second guy who's been on that corner. As Hokie mentioned earlier, they've had a ton of problems in that secondary, particularly on the corner, and this was a no-brainer. It was a clear interference call and a penalty that picks up 40 yards for the Saints.
Actually, a pretty good play by Serwenga, because if he doesn't interfere with him, he's probably going to catch that ball and go the distance.
1st and 10, New Orleans from the Viking 40-yard line. Saints trail early, 7-0. Brooks, play action. Well protected, steps up, can't find anybody. Dancing around in the pocket, he'll roll to his right. Look downfield, tuck it under and run. Running out of bounds in front of the Viking bench after a short gain of perhaps a couple.
Well, I think that's going to kind of be the Vikings' game plan, is they want to rush just their 4 guys, play a lot of zone, make Aaron be patient, make his reads, and throw the ball downfield. That time he really doesn't get a whole lot of pressure, but as you know, we've talked about before, once you stand back in that pocket for long enough, you start getting a little bit nervous and you break out of there. But at least Aaron has got some room to run.
It's a pickup of 2 and brings up 2nd and 8 from the Viking 38-yard line. Saints had some people open downfield. Brooks couldn't find him as he scrambled. Jackson split out wide to the right, Reed wide left. Ricky Williams lined up as a fullback, gets the carry straight ahead down to about the 35-yard line. Kenny Wilkerson had said this week that Williams might see some duty as a fullback, a role we have never seen him in as a Saint, but he gets the carry there, and now he'll head to the sideline.
Well, that's one thing that the Saints don't do. They don't give the ball to the fullback very much, and by Ricky coming in there and lining up as a fullback, unless you're alerted to it on the defensive side of the ball that he's in the ball game, you don't expect the fullback to run the ball.
It was a pickup of 2, and it brings up 3rd and 6 from the Viking 36-yard line. Saints go with a lot of 2 tight end formations. Line up Glover and Hall to the left side. Willie Jackson, the lone wide receiver, to the right. Backs are offset. The tailback is Allen. Brooks, play action. Steps up, hit from behind, loses the football. Back at the 49-yard line. It's going to be covered by one of the Saints, Nioli, but there was a flag down on the play.
Too much time, so it'll just nullify the penalty.
Prior to the snap, delay of game, offense, 5 yards, still 3rd down.
So that's actually a break for the Saints, as they would have lost about 25 yards on that fumble that they did recover, but in their own territory. Instead, it's a 5-yard penalty for delay of game. And it brings up 3rd and 11 for the Saints from the Viking 41. This place is just deafening. Poole is split out wide to the left. Jackson, Reed, and Wilson. 3 receivers to the near side of the field as the Saints will try to confuse that secondary. Brooks is in the shotgun. Snap comes back to him. Brooks can't find anybody. Peels out of the pocket. Gives ground. Throws downfield, and it's caught. inside the 30-yard line by Jake Reed, down to the 28-yard line, and that'll be a first down.
Well, that's the ability that we've seen time and time again. Aaron Brooks being able to improvise on the move. He got a little pressure from the middle, rolled out to his left. Jake Reed stayed into it, kept with his pattern, got down there, got the first down. Huge first down for the Saints.
And that quick live arm of Brooks, that thing was a laser as he was actually backing up as he was being nearly sacked by John Randall, who provided the pressure. Jake Reed, the former Viking from 91 to 99, converts. First and 10 Saints from the Viking 28-yard line. Saints trailing first quarter 7-0. Brooks drops straight back, throws it downfield, and it's incomplete at the 11-yard line, intended for Willie Jackson. The coverage by Waswa Serwenga, along with the safety, Robert Griffith.
Well, you got to figure with the week that, or the game that Willie Jackson had last week, that is the guy that Aaron Brooks is going to be looking for. I mean, Glover's the guy they like to go to once they get down in there deep. But right now, I think that Willie Jackson's his go-to guy.
6 catches for 142 yards and those 3 second-half touchdowns last week. Second and 10 New Orleans from the Viking 28. Reed split out wide to the left, Jackson wide right, 2 tight end formation. Brooks is going to throw short, taken in by Glover. Glover with Serwenga trying to strip him of the football, gets down to about the 23-yard line. Andrew Glover, who had 21 receptions this year during the regular season, including 4 touchdowns. And he's been fairly vocal this week about the kind of game he wants to have coming back against the team with whom he played from 1997 to 99. It's a pickup of 5, and it brings up 3rd and 5 from the Viking 23-yard line. Reed splits out wide to the left, and Jackson wide right. Again, it's a 2 tight end formation, and Terry Allen is the lone setback behind Brooks. Brooks up under center. 3-step drop, guns it to the near sideline to Jackson, makes a move on the corner, picks up the first down, is ridden out of bounds by the linebacker Rudd inside the 15. They'll mark it just inside the 14-yard line. First down, Saints.
There again, you see that run after catch ability that Willie Jackson has. And the other night, when I was talking to him on the radio show, I told him, all year long, I felt that you're the best run after catch receiver that the Saints have. And he said, well, that's because I used to be a running back in my high school days. And you can see where it's a giant benefit for the Saints, because once he gets the ball, he can do a lot of damage.
Ricky Williams checks into the lineup. He's at tailback now. First and 10 from the 14 of the Vikings. Saints trailing 7-0, but threatening. Jackson in motion. Handoff, Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams dives inside to about the 13. Perhaps it's no gain on the play. They're going to mark it closer to the 14-yard line. So Ricky Williams is carried from his fullback position for a couple, from the halfback position for no gain.
Well, I promise you that particular play right there, that was a no gain, didn't have anything to do with Ricky Williams. It had something to do with the Vikings defense, because they got penetration right from the snap.
Actually, it's a loss of a yard on the play. 2nd and 11 from the 15-yard line of the Vikings. Reed split out wide to the left, Jackson wide right. Ricky Williams goes in motion out of the backfield. Brooks drops straight back, looks into the end zone, guns it, and it's incomplete. Intended for Glover at the goal line. It was swatted away by the linebacker Rudd. If he doesn't make that play, it's a touchdown.
Well, but that was great coverage by Rudd. All he was doing was what you call a latch and trail position. He's just following Andrew Glover wherever he goes. As soon as he sees Andrew put his hands up, he puts his hands up in the air as well and swats the ball down.
Well, this is a much maligned Viking defense that gave up over 30 points and over 400 yards in the 3-game losing streak with which they concluded the season. 3rd and 11 for the Saints from the 15-yard line of the Vikings. Chad Morton checks in now as Brooks goes to the shotgun. Brooks throws. The throw is incomplete at the 5-yard line. Was thrown low and intended for Robert Wilson. And so the Saints will settle for the field goal attempt of Doug Bryan. Both of these kickers on hot streaks. Bryan has hit his last 10, including one last week against the Rams in the playoffs.
Jim, that wasn't a bad drive by the Saints offense. I mean, they haven't shown the ability to run the ball, but they've done some things right there. Just take the ball and move it down, eat up the clock, because with that 3-play drive that Vikings had for their first score, Saints need to keep them off the field.
From the left hash mark, it's a 33-yard field goal attempt by Bryan. That is good, and the Saints get on the board with their second offensive possession of the first quarter. 7:46 to play. Quarter number 1. It's now the Vikings 7 and the Saints 3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
365 WWL 870 AM.
After the Vikings touchdown, the Saints go 65 yards in 10 plays and 4-11 with Doug Bryan hitting a 33-yard field goal to cut the deficit to 4. It's 7-3. The Vikings leading the Saints. And if you're the Saints coaching staff, you're probably saying to that offense, okay, we got our points on the board. We've shown we can move the ball against these guys. We're right back in it. Just settle down.
Right. You only had one delay of game penalty, and, you know, they didn't have any offsides or illegal procedures or holding calls, anything like that. So at least on that drive right there, they were able to handle the crowd noise.
Toby Goen steps into the kickoff. It's a knuckleball that Walters will field at the 3. He's up across the 10, 15 across the 20, and tripped up as he crosses his own 25-yard line. The Vikings will start around their 27. So there's a timeout on the field with our score. The Vikings 7 and the Saints 3 with 7:37 to play in the first quarter. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Talk with Buddy D. Now weekdays at 5 on WWL 870 AM.
After a 25-yard kickoff return by Troy Walters, the Vikings will start from their 28-yard line. And the Vikings have to be heartened by their start, given what's happened throughout the first quarter of recent games in the season. Dante Culpepper had only thrown 6 touchdowns in the first quarter during the regular season, his fewest in any quarter. He has one here early today. All 3 opponents in their last 3 losses had scored on their first drive. They prevented the Saints from doing so. 1st and 10 from the Viking 28-yard line. Moss goes in motion. Culpepper drops, well protected. Throwing underneath for Moss. It's low and incomplete. Coming up quickly was Sammy Knight on the coverage, but that was a poorly thrown ball by Culpepper. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader.
2nd and 10 Vikings from their 28. Hatchett and Carter split to the near side. Moss to the far side. Culpepper hands it off to Smith, and he is tripped up in the backfield by Joe Johnson. He is able to get beyond the 30, up around the 31-yard line, but Joe Johnson with some good penetration, and as Kenny Wilkerson said before the game, his play against left tackle Todd Stussy figures to be a pivotal point for the Saints as far as their success against the running game of the Vikings, and it all starts there in slowing down Robert Smith, who gained 1,521 yards during the season, a team record, and first in the NFC. It's 3rd and 7 from the Viking 31. 3 wide receivers to the near side of the field, 1 to the far. Saints showing blitz, rushing just 3. Culpepper dancing around in the pocket, rolling right, being chased by Howard. He will run to the sideline, has the first down before Smith can catch up with him. He's out of bounds as he crosses his own 40-yard line.
Well, he absolutely showed no ill effects at all from that high ankle sprain, and that is the thing that is the most dangerous about Dante Culpepper, probably more so than any quarterback the Saints have faced so far this year, is that the guy's 260 pounds, and he runs like a running back.
That's a pickup of 10 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards per attempt during the regular season and scored 7 touchdowns for a team quarterback record. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 41. They lead at 7-3, 6:28 to play first quarter. Handoff Smith. He doesn't have much running room. Running straight ahead, he dances forward for perhaps a yard, 2 at best. Keith Mitchell on the top of the pile. Mark Fields on the bottom.
You know, Jim, back when we were here during the preseason, Dennis Green had a couple of quotes that, you know, if people said, well, how could you let Jeff George go and how could you let Randall Cunningham go? He decided to go with Dante Culpepper, and he said, you know, look, we've got the car. These are just the keys to it. Well, Dante Culpepper has done a few improvements to that car.
They've had a ton of quarterbacks here through the years, and they never seem to slow down on offense, and that's a tribute to Denny Green. 2nd and 8 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 43. Backs in an eye. Culpepper with wideouts to the right and left. Play action. Throws over the middle to Smith. Smith is open into Saints territory, inside the 40, down to around the 38-yard line.
Robert Smith is not only a dangerous runner, gaining over 1,500 yards on the ground this year, he was also their 3rd leading receiver this year with 36 catches for 348 yards. And a team that's known as a passing offense and with a lot of talent on the outside, he can do a lot in the passing game as well. That's why there's so much similarity between he and Marshall Faulk. They have a different style, but they're both very dangerous in all facets of the game.
Last week, the Saints were able to pressure Kurt Warner with their front 4. So far today, that front 4 hasn't had much pressure. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Saint 37. They lead at 7-3. Culpepper hands off to Smith. On his back is Johnson after a pickup of about 2 to the 35-yard line.
Robert Smith was never really able to get on track those final 3 games of the season, and I think the Vikings coaching staff feels that that's the reason that they did not win those games, because they couldn't run. Right now, the Saints are doing a good job of shutting down and run, but they're not doing as good a job in their pass coverage and especially their pass rushing.
Robert Smith had just 130 yards rushing in those last 3 games, all losses. 2nd and 8 for the Vikings from the Saints 35. Carter split out wide to the right, Moss wide left, Smith behind Culpepper. He puts his tight end Jordan in motion to the right side of the formation, hands it off to Smith. Smith is hit by Howard at the line of scrimmage and stopped for no gain. Mark Fields down around his ankles.
Well, there's no doubt about it that the Saints have learned a lesson from 2 weeks ago when they faced Marshall Faulk and the way that he gashed him with the cutback. These guys are definitely playing the ball much better inside out and keeping their responsibilities and not letting that cutback lane open up, because Robert Smith is also a very good cutback runner.
And so we'll see the Vikings' 3rd down package here on 3rd and 8 from the Saint 35. Carter wide right, Moss wide left. Mo Williams has checked in along with big Jim Kleinsasser to provide protection for Culpepper in the backfield. Saints showing blitz, coming with only 4. Culpepper's going to throw, looking for Carter. He makes a juggling grab inside the 5-yard line. He'll be down inside the 1. 1st and goal, Minnesota.
And that's the thing about Chris Carter is he doesn't have the speed to beat you deep, but once he gets body position on you and gets those hands up in the air, once he touches it, he's going to catch it.
That's a 34-yard gain as Chris Carter, who had 96 receptions during the regular season, shows off that great concentration and hand and eye coordination. 1st and goal for the Vikings inside the Saint 1. 3 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Vikings on top 7-3. 1 wide receiver to the right. There's movement along the line of scrimmage as the Saints come across. Leroy Glover along with Darren Howard. Let's see if they were induced.
Part of the snap, false start, 77, offense, 5 yards, still 1st down.
They were. That was big right tackle Corey Stringer, and when he starts moving, it's hard for him to stop. 6'4", 339 pounds. He's a guy that recovered during the bye week from a hyperextended knee suffered when he was hit along the sideline by a player going out of bounds. Culpepper is 4 out of 5 for 107 yards. He's been well protected, and he showed his ability to scramble as well. And so it is 1st and goal from the 5 now. Culpepper hands off to Smith. Smith bottled up and hit in the line behind the line of scrimmage. He'll be dropped for a loss of about 1 on the play. Some pushing and shoving as the players unstack. Darren Howard in the middle of that. But the officials quickly separate them. That's a loss on the play of 1 yard, and it'll bring up 2nd and goal from the 6. Now the Vikings started 1st and goal from inside the 1-yard line. Second and goal with the ball resting outside the 5-yard line. Smith, the lone setback behind Culpepper. Culpepper going to throw off a quick set, and it's incomplete, intended for Moss. Moss almost made a juggling one-handed grab. Kevin Mathis beating his chest after helping swat that ball away with help from Sammy Knight.
Jim, you could almost see it coming. You line up out there on the left, you got 6'4" Randy Moss against 5'9" Kevin Mathis. I mean, the fans are
with one there, it would appear. So it's 3rd and goal for the Vikings from the Saint 5-yard line. It would be huge to keep this team out of the end zone after they had it 1st and goal from inside the 1. Carter goes in motion left to right. Smith behind Culpepper. Culpepper 5-step drop. Now he's in trouble. Gets away from the sack. Giving ground. He's all the way back at his 22-yard line. Gets a block. Rolls left. Inside the 10. Inside the 5. Dumps it off from perhaps across the line of scrimmage. Incomplete. No flag being thrown. Now there's one in the end zone. It looked like he was across the line of scrimmage when he threw that.
I would have to say he was definitely past the line of scrimmage, but the flag is back in the end zone, so I don't know if they're going to call the Saints for some type of holding here.
Well, we wondered about Dante Culpepper's ability to scramble. He showed that he's not too badly impaired by that ankle right now, and it's going to be offensive interference against the Vikings. And so the Saints will decline that penalty and force the Vikings to attempt the field goal.
And another thing, you talk about Culpepper's touch on the ball, his strong arm, and his sack. You see the strength that he had in the pocket. The Saints had him back there wrapped up for a sack, you know, to eliminate any possibility of anything happening. He breaks out of that, then he scrambles around, and I mean, just really had you holding your breath.
Number 63, the offense had penalties decline, 4th down.
That penalty was against left guard Corbin Lucina. And so the Saints with a goal line stand of sorts, really helped by the illegal procedure penalty against Corey Stringer, the right tackle, on 1st down. And on comes Gary Anderson to attempt a 24-yard field goal directly in front of the uprights. Snap is back. Anderson's attempt is up and through, and the 40-year-old Anderson is able to pad the Viking lead with 1:36 to play in quarter number 1. Our score is now Minnesota 10 and New Orleans 3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Network salute to all the fans of the House of Blues today with Bob Del Giorno. The House of Blues, 225 Decatur in the French Quarter. Hey, Bob, give them to do the wave. Vikings go 67 yards in 12 plays in 6-10. Gary Anderson, a 24-yard field goal. As Anderson earlier in this game with his extra point after the Moss touchdown became the all-time leading scorer in playoff history. Surpassing George Blanda in that category. Here's Berger to kick it away. A strong kickoff drives McAfee 5 yards deep in the end zone. He'll come out with it, and he won't get back to the 20. Freddie McAfee up to about his 17-yard line, and that's where the Saints will start.
Might have been a decision there where Fred might have went ahead and taken the knee. I mean, it was just comes up a couple yards short of the 20, but he was a little bit too deep to maybe bring it out.
Some more hostilities. Breakout on the field. 1:27 to play, first quarter. Vikings on top of the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Well, you knew in this one that the Saints had to put points on the board because you're not going to slow down the Vikings and probably hold them under, say, 27 points. And so far, the Saints haven't slowed them down at all.
They haven't slowed them down one bit. The only thing they've slowed down is the running game, but the passing game is killing them. You know, and what the Saints have to do right now is, as we talked about earlier, just like in that first game against the Rams, just move the ball down the field. And you got to find a way to get yourself points on the board. Big moral victory to hold them to a field goal on that last series.
After the 23-yard return by McAfee, it's 1st and 10 New Orleans from their 18-yard line. Chad Morton is in as the tailback. 3-step drop. Brooks throws it out on the flare to Morton, left flat, spins out of one tackle, and dives forward for perhaps a yard on the play, stopped short of his 20-yard line. Out there in coverage was Robert Tate, and holding Morton at bay until some compatriots on that Viking defense could converge for the stop.
Well, it's always a scary thing when you get a back out there one-on-one in the open field like that, and the first guy comes up, and even though he doesn't make the tackle, if he just bottles him up, and then it gives the rest of your defense an opportunity to pursue over there, and that's exactly what the Vikings did. They got out there and just hemmed up Chad Morton and didn't let him get going.
It's a pickup of 2, and it brings up 2nd and 8 from the New Orleans 20-yard line. 2 wideouts to the right, 1 to the left. Brooks play action. Under some pressure now, he guns it upfield. Catch is made by Jake Reed on the far sideline. Out of bounds with the first down reception at the New Orleans 36-yard line.
Great catch by Jake Reed. He gets out, extends those big long arms, and that big tall body. He has made a nice grab. But you can also thank Ricky Williams right there for picking up Griffin as he was coming on the blitz. Ricky's kind of getting a little bit of here and there playing time, but it was a good job of reading the blitz and picking it up. Otherwise, Aaron Brooks gets blindsided.
16-yard reception, New Orleans first down. 1st and 10 Saints at their 36. 22 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Saints trailing. Here's Ricky Williams sweeping left. Turning it up now, and that's his best carry since returning to the lineup, up to around the 43-yard line. He had carried twice for a single yard before that pickup of, what shall we say, close to 7? 7-yard pickup by Ricky Williams, who had run once from the fullback position, once from the tailback position. That time he showed decisiveness and the ability to turn on that ankle and cut it upfield, that broken left ankle that's kept him out since the Carolina game. We have reached the end of the first quarter. Vikings on top of the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Zone Andre and Buddy D, WWL 870 AM.
It's a New Orleans Saints tradition. Turn down the sound on your TV and turn up the Saints radio network throughout the playoffs. Turn down the sound and then turn us up. That's the Saints radio network.
Jim, on that last carry that Ricky Williams had, the thing that encouraged me the most about was, number one, he showed that little extra spurt getting through the hole, and then the way he finished that run by punishing some of the Vikings defenders after that 6-yard gain.
Saints have it 2nd and 3 at their 43-yard line, moving it right to left on the first play of the second quarter. Ricky Williams straight ahead, pushes the pile forward beyond the 45, up close to the 46. Looks to be just short of the first down. Depending on the forward progress that they give him, he'll be about a yard short.
I think you probably might be starting to see a little bit more of Ricky Williams in the game. I mean, providing that he's going to the sideline, letting Jim Haslett know that I'm feeling good. I mean, you can see he's got his quickness back. He's got a little bit of the speed back. That's going to help the Saints tremendously to have themselves a running game.
3rd and 1 for the Saints from the New Orleans 45. Jackson is split out wide to the right. Reed wide left. Ricky Williams in an offset backfield is the fullback, along with Chad Morton, the tailback. Play action, rolling right is Brooks. He could throw it or run it. He runs with it and picks it up on a diving effort. The quarterback Brooks is able to pick up the first down. Ball stolen from him at the last moment by Fernando Smith, but he is down by contact. And Brooks making the right decision there, holding onto the football and picking up the first down, though just barely.
Well, the right decision was the fact that he picked up the first down, but I have to disagree with you. He had Chad Morton wide open, and I don't know that he really wanted to risk it trying to throw the ball to him. I mean, Aaron knew he could pick up the first down, but if he throws it to Chad, Chad's going to pick up about 10 or 15 yards.
1st and 10 from the 47-yard line of the Saints. 13:38 to play second quarter. Vikings on top 10-3. Jackson in motion left to right. Brooks rolling right. Throws on the run, and he throws it away in the direction of Reed, who was covered by the free safety Orlando Thomas along the far sideline.
Well, that one just got away from him. As he rolled out of the pocket, he just threw it and just had way too much on it and went sailing high and wide over into the cameras over on the sideline somewhere.
Brooks is 6 out of 11 for 49 yards. In the first quarter, each team had the football for 7.5 minutes. The Vikings ran 15 plays and the Saints 17, but the Vikings had 2 big ones, a 53-yard touchdown Culpepper to Moss and a 34-yard reception to Chris Carter inside the 1 that set up the field goal, accounting for all 10 of their points on those 2 big plays and what occurred thereafter. 2nd and 10 from the New Orleans 47. Handoff inside to Morton. He's going to be ridden down after a short gain. He'll be stopped short of midfield.
Good read by John Randall. He saw the draw coming, and he just fell off of his block. John Randall getting a little bit long in the tooth, but he still got some of that quickness, and he showed it right there, the quickness to get off that block and get on to Chad Morton. Otherwise, Chad's going to have a pretty nice game.
John Randall has been here 11 years out of Texas A&I, but may not be back next year as he's due to make $8 million, and he's coming off his worst season with only 8 sacks. Not hard to tell how loud this crowd gets as the Saints look at 3rd and 7 from midfield. Brooks in the shotgun. 2 wide receivers to the left, 1 to the right. Vikings coming with the blitz. Brooks at the last second runs out of the pocket. I don't know how he got out of there. Throwing on the right, and it is going to be incomplete. Almost caught at the 31-yard line by Robert Wilson. Again, he's playing with that broken thumb and a cast on it, but he nearly made a catch that would have been phenomenal. Turning around 180 degrees, he almost made the reception on the far sideline for what would have been a first down.
I don't know how Aaron Brooks got out of that. As the safety came in on a blitz, he went up to hit him as Aaron's arm was coming forward, and he didn't want to get a roughing the passer call, I guess, so he just pulled it down and ran out of there.
That was Robert Griffith coming up. Here's the punt by Goen, fielded on a fair catch at the 14-yard line by Troy Walters. And that's where the Vikings will start, and that's where the Saints defense will try to slow down this high-powered Viking offense from when we return. 12:29 to play second quarter. Vikings on top of the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
For your drive to and from work, traffic and weather together on the 8s on WWL.
The Vikings with 136 yards in total offense in the first quarter. And that would give them more than a 500-yard game if the Saints don't slow them down somewhat. And the Saints this year defensively holding teams on an average of 296 yards for an entire game. So right now the defense needs to step up. It hasn't as yet. 1st and 10 Vikings from the Minnesota 14. 12:29 to play second quarter. Vikings on top 10-3. Culpepper handing it off to Smith. He's hit in the backfield and dragged down for a loss on the play by big Norman Hand, who comes out with the big wiggle. Somebody wrote me an email this week, said they ought to call it the handshake. Makes sense to me.
Absolutely. Whatever you want to call it, that was a great play on Norman Hand's part. As he gets right through the offensive line, he just flattens right down the line of scrimmage, and Robert Smith is a tough guy to stop in the backfield because of that great speed that he has.
But it's a loss of 1 on the carry by Smith. 2nd and 11 from the Viking 13. 2 wideouts to the left. One is Moss. He comes in motion left to right. 1 back. Culpepper drops straight back, well protected, throwing downfield, incomplete. Wide of Chris Carter, covered by Alex Molden. Sammy Knight coming up from his safety position.
Well, Jim, you talked about this defense having to step up. The group that's really going to have to step up is this secondary because, what they want to do because of the weapons that the Vikings have, they want to rush those 4 and try and contain them. But really, up to this point, it's just been a couple of errant throws by Dante Culpepper that have not resulted in completions because Chris Carter was open that time.
Yes,
he just let him a little too much.
Would have been about a 30-yard reception, or perhaps he's still running if the Saints don't make an open field tackle. But it brings up 3rd and 11 from the Viking 13. Saints have not come with many blitzes, content primarily to let their front 4 do the pass rushing, as they do again. Now on a delayed blitz, a linebacker comes. Culpepper throws low and incomplete in the direction of Carter up at the 29-yard line. Alex Molden on the coverage.
And that time it was good coverage by Alex Molden. He was right there. If Carter catches that ball, he'll have the first down, but Alex was in position to at least make a play on the ball.
Well, Mitch Berger averaging 44.7 yards per punt, leading the NFC in that category. Comes on to punt it away from his own end zone. And back deep is Chad Morton, who stands at the Saint 40-yard line. Snap is back to Berger, and he touches off a dandy. Morton will be able to return it, however, from his 33. Across the 40, across the 45, still dancing, trying to break a tackle. He'll be brought down at the 46-yard line.
There again, you see the great special teams coverage unit that the Vikings have. There were a lot of guys down that were unblocked.
11:31 to play in quarter number 2. Vikings leading the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
News, the best talk, the Saints, Tulane, and LSU on WWL.
Here's the Saints Radio Network salute to all the fans of the House of Blues today with Bob Del Giorno. The House of Blues, 225 Decatur Street in the French Quarter. Hey, Bob, make some noise.
After a 54-yard Berger punt and a 16-yard Chad Morton return, the Saints will start from their 46-yard line, trailing the Vikings 10-3. Jackson splits out wide to the right. Jake Reed, who's made some big catches, split out wide to the left. Ricky Williams, 4 carries for 8 yards, is the tailback with Brian Milne, the fullback. Here's Ricky, right side, hit at the line of scrimmage, stacked up and thrown backward. No gain on the play. In there to plug the gap was Ed McDaniel, the veteran linebacker out of Clemson. Vikings have gotten quite a bit of criticism this year because of the size and tackling ability of those linebackers.
Well, I mean, they've had some great linebackers in the past, but, things just kind of seem to go in cycles like that sometimes, that you get yourself a defense and you just can't seem to get out of that funk for a couple, 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden it'll turn around and become a great defense with the addition of a couple of players.
2nd and 10 from the Saint 46. Brooks, play action. Sets up the screen with a blocker in front of Chad Morton. He's across midfield as a flag has been thrown. Morton is out of bounds with the first down at about the 41-yard line of the Vikings, but clearly there was a flag thrown during the course of the play, holding against New Orleans, the initial indication.
They're going to call that against Wally Williams. He got out there in open field, and really what happened was the defender slipped down, and when Wally went down just to kind of shove him onto the ground, he stood up and made it look like he was holding him.
Well, that'll negate a first down. He was blocking against the corner, Robert Tate. And that's exactly what happened. Tate went down, and Williams just kind of engulfed him with his arms.
Right, and then, I guess by letter of the law, I mean, they do call that holding because he did kind of have it around him. But the reason his arm got around him is because the defensive backs fell into his arm.
After the 10-yard penalty, It's going to be 2nd and 19. They credit Morton with a 1-yard catch prior to that penalty. 2nd and 19 from the New Orleans 37. Brooks trying to make himself heard over the din of this crowd. He is going to be running out of time and will call timeout.
It'll be the smart thing to do, call timeout. He's not going to be able to be overheard over this crowd. I mean, he's just going to have to go to some hand signals, let those guys know what he wants, because he cannot yell loud enough to get above this crowd noise.
And so with the timeout, we'll step aside. 10:23 to play in the second quarter. Vikings on top of the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Catch the latest news every hour on the hour on WWL 870 AM.
Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
The Crescent City. This is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870. The news, talk, and sports leader.
We're not getting help on this crowd noise from ambient microphones down on the sideline. What you hear is what's filling through our headsets, and it's as loud as it can be in here at the moment as the Saints look at 2nd and 19 from the New Orleans 37. Now Brooks from the shotgun, well protected. Going to throw it out in the flat, and it's batted down incomplete. Jumping up to swat it away was number 91. And that was John Burrow. John Burrow, the former Atlanta Falcon, who often spells John Randall at defensive end, able to get up and in the face of Aaron Brooks, swat that pass away. And now the Saints will look at 3rd and 19 from their 37. Wilson and Jackson split out wide to the right. Poole and Reed wide left. Now Poole goes in motion left to right from the shotgun. Brooks sets, delivers over the middle to Morton. A short pass. He puts the move on the defensive back and is able to get up to about the original line of scrimmage, perhaps to the 48-yard line. And that's as far as he'll get, and the Saints will be forced to punt it away.
Well, Jim, on the play prior to that, Aaron Brooks, he tried to dump the ball off to Chad Morton in the flat, and it was really a situation where Aaron probably should have run the ball because the pass rush just kind of parted like the Red Sea in front of it. You know, and when you got 2nd and 19, you're not trying to pick up all 19 yards at one time. You just tuck it and run, get 7, 8, 9 yards, and then come back and put yourself in a more manageable 3rd down situation.
It is 4th and 9. Snap back to Goen. Back deep. Troy Walters, he comes up and makes the fair catch short of his 20-yard line. That's where the Vikings will start as the Saints unable to capitalize on good field position. With 9:33 to play in the second quarter, the Vikings are on top of the Saints 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Start your day with Bob Del Giorno, weekday mornings 5 till 9 on WWL 870 AM.
Get the inside scoop on the sideline stories of Kenny Wilkerson's exclusive injury updates from the field. Hear it when it happens only on the Saints Radio Network. Turn down the sound on your TV and turn us up, the Saints Radio Network.
After the 34-yard Toby Goen punt, the Vikings will set up shop from their 19-yard line. The Vikings playing in their 38th playoff game, the Saints in their 6th, and coming off their first win in postseason a week ago against the Rams. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the 19-yard line. Baxton and I, Klein Sasser, the fullback, in front of the tailback Smith. Play action. Culpepper under pressure from Glover. Steps forward, delivers it to his fullback, and big Jim Kleinsasser with a tackler on his back fights his way beyond the 30-yard line for a first down. Keith Mitchell on the stop. Now, Kleinsasser originally came into the league as a tight end, so he's pretty good in the passing game.
Right, he was a tight end in college. Got a great pair of hands. I mean, you talk about one of the biggest fullbacks in the league. Ain't no doubt about it, Jim Kleinsasser is. And he possesses something that you'd like all your fullbacks to have, and that's a great pair of hands, and he just showed it right there and had a little extra surge at the end of that catch to pick up the first down.
6'3" and 278 pounds is Kleinsasser. 1st and 10 Vikings from the Minnesota 30-yard line. Culpepper hands it off to Smith. Left side, and he's stacked up after a gain of about 3. The Saints have been doing a good job against the running of Smith. Darren Smith there on the stop, along with Willie Whitehead.
Well, they definitely want to be able to do that, contain Robert Smith as much as they can. But, you know, with all the different weapons that the Vikings have, I mean, just about the time that you think you got Carter and Moss covered, then a guy like Kleinsasser comes out of there, and you dump him off something over the middle.
Robert Smith, who's due for a huge contract as he's played out his this year. The Vikings will have to spend a lot of money to keep him. 2nd and 7 from the 38-yard line of Minnesota. Culpepper looks left, throws right, and it's in off the hands of Molden. Molden had read that play beautifully as Hatchett came out to the near sideline. Molden broke on the ball at the 35-yard line, had it in his hands with nothing but clear sailing in front of him to the Viking end zone.
It was great reaction by Alex. He read it all the way, stepped right in front, perfect. All he's got to do is catch that, and it's a tie ball game.
Looking to pick that off all the way as for the first time today. Culpepper looks for Matthew Hatchett, the third receiver in this very talented group. 3rd and 7 now for the Vikings from the Minnesota 33. Culpepper in the shotgun, puts Moss in motion right to left. Snap back to him is high. He brings it down. Well protected. Going to throw it deep down the far sideline, and it is incomplete. Moss covered by Thomas step for step with Darren Perry coming over to help out.
Well, that was great coverage by Fred Thomas. I mean, we know how fast Randy Moss can run. Fred Thomas was with him step for step. Let's take it right down to Kenny Wilkerson when the Beta Springs Water State sideline report. Kenny?
All right, guys, last time the defense was on the sidelines, Ron Zook and Jim Haslett and everybody else spent most of the time with the secondary. They feel like they're doing a pretty good job at controlling up front on the line of scrimmage with the defense, but the secondary, they've made some good adjustments, appear to be working. Jim?
Here's the snap back to Berger, and this is a wobbly effort fielded by Morton at his 27 across the 30, and he'll be hammered down at the 35-yard line, and that's where the Saints will start. Well, Culpepper cooling off 1 out of his last 7 as the Saints have tightened up defensively in their secondary as well. And now it's up to the offense to get on track, Toke.
Yeah, and I tell you something else is it's going to be a little bit time for the defense or the special teams to step up. You know, Chad Morton's just not getting an opportunity to return anything. Last time Berger kind of outkicked his coverage. Chad got a 16-yard return on it, but that's just because the ball was kicked so far. That time it was a short, wobbly punt. There was really nobody being blocked. And, I mean, you got to help Chad out a little bit. Just give him a couple blocks here and there.
It was a 41-yard punt and a 9-yard return. 1st and 10 New Orleans from the Saint 35. Aaron Brooks up under center. Hands it off to Morton, sweeping right. Can't break the tackle at the line of scrimmage and settles for about a 2-yard gain. Glover blocking out in front of him. Well, the Saints trying to make more use of Chad Morton on these last couple of series, throwing him the ball in the flat, also handing him the football. We have seen a little bit of Ricky Williams, who has been pretty much contained. He has played both at fullback and at tailback. Is not in there at the moment as Morton settles for a 2-yard gain. It's 2nd and 8 from the New Orleans 37. Here's the pitch out to Morton, sweeping left. Breaks it upfield, has the first down, knocked out of bounds in front of the Viking bench as he crosses his 45-yard line.
You know, that's a play that the Saints don't run very much at all. I mean, we saw a bunch of it from the Rams, and we saw some of it from the Vikings today. It's just this plain old toss to the outside. I mean, you run that play from high school all the way up, but it's something the Saints have not done a whole lot of this year. Chad Morton was good and patient, stayed back there, kind of let the convoy get out in front of him, picks up a nice 8-9-yard gain.
It's a gain of 9 for Chad Morton, who goes to the sideline for a breather, the longest run by either team in the game. 1st and 10 New Orleans, up at the 46-yard line of the Saints. Brooks play action. Looks downfield, throws down the middle. It's incomplete. He had Jake Reed wide open at the 32-yard line and threw it too high.
Just a tad too high. Jake reached up there. Very much like the catch he made over on the sidelines. He extends those long arms up there. That one was just a little bit too high. I can't necessarily blame Jake on that one. You can't really blame Aaron either. He made the right read, put it right where it needed to be. It just had a little too much heat on it and sailed just a tad high for him.
Coverage provided by Tyrone Carter, 4th-round draft choice out of the University of Minnesota nearby. 2nd and 10 for the Saints from the New Orleans 46. 2 wideouts to the right, 1 to the left. Ricky Williams is in there and gets the call. Ricky Williams up to about the 49-yard line. Gain of about 4 yards on the carry.
Well, I really like the way they're kind of using Ricky right now. It's almost kind of a step-by-step process. They're putting him in there, playing him some at fullback, some at tailback, and just kind of getting some different things. And hopefully that, the information that they're getting on the sidelines that he says he feels good, maybe come the second half, you might get a real steady dose of him. I'd like to see that.
6 carries for 15 yards for Ricky Williams. Saints need to convert here on 3rd and 7 from their 49-yard line. Ball goes in motion. Brooks from the shotgun as a flag is down, throws it. The ball is complete to the near sideline to Reed. It'll be a first down if the play stands. Willie Rofe is eavesdropping on the officials, and it's going to go against the Saints for an illegal shift.
Well, illegal shift, two men moving and not resetting on the offense, 5 yards, still third down.
Willie was kind of hoping. I mean, after Jake had made the reception over there on the sideline, Willie saw the flag and was pointing toward the Vikings, but he couldn't see what was happening to the outside.
Saints with two people moving, and that negates the reception by Reed that would have carried with it a first down. It's 3rd and 11 for the Saints from the New Orleans 45-yard line. Reed and Jackson along with Wilson wide right. Keith Poole split out to the left. Brooks in the shotgun. Chad Morton stands alongside. Vikings rush 4. Brooks with a lot of time. Now pulls it down. Thinks about scrambling. Hit from behind. He'll be sacked at the 40-yard line.
Well, you got to give the Vikings secondary a lot of credit. You know, they said this has been a porous defense. Aaron has had some time to throw the football, but those defensive linemen from the Vikings just keep working. I mean, he had plenty of time to find somebody, and he just got sacked from the blind side.
John Burrow with the first sack of this game. And Brooks did have a lot of time, thought about running. By the time he tucked the ball under and moved back in the pocket, he was hit from behind. Going to punt this football away. Hangs it up for Walters. He takes it in at his 16, 20, 25, hit at the 27-yard line, and slammed down there on a fine tackle by Phil Clark.
Well, Jim, you can see right there just what the penalties do for you. In the previous drive, the Saints threw a little screen out to Chad Morton. They called holding on Wally Williams, got themselves into a 2nd and 19 situation. Then right there, they come up, they get the first down, throw the ball out to Jake Reed on the boundary, but 2 men in motion, brings it back, and the Saints end up getting a sack on it. So, but the thing they have to do, I mean, they're not jumping off sides with the crowd noise. They're just kind of shooting them on themselves in the foot.
1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 27-yard line. 5:09 to play before halftime. Vikings leading at 10-3. Culpepper, who's cooled off, changes the play. Up under center, looks at the play clock, and now he'll run it on play action. Pump fake once, tosses it short. Catch by Smith, ridden down immediately at the 32-yard line by Chris Oldham.
I think they'll probably want to play Chris Oldham very much the same way that he did last week against Marcia Falk. Be a spy. Chris Oldham's a good tackler. He's not going to be able to get in there and stand up against those offensive linemen in the running game, but he can certainly get in there and play spy technique and jump around if the Vikings do run. He's still got the range and quickness to go make some plays on Robert Smith.
Very smart player, seldom in the wrong place, and has a real nose for the football. It's a pickup of 5 on the short dump off. 2nd and 5 from the Viking 32. Again, the backs are in an eye, and this time it is Smith running right. Robert Smith breaks the tackle of Perry at the line of scrimmage and falls forward for the first down. Up around the Viking 38-yard line.
Well, you know, the Vikings have the reputation of being a quick strike, explosive offense, which of course they are, but they were certainly content to do just what they did there. Hit a back over the middle for a 5-yard gain, then turn around and hand the ball for 5 yards. I mean, Robert Smith had 1,500 yards this season, over 1,500 yards, and he averaged 5.2 yards a carry. That's tough to do in the league nowadays. You kind of use the benchmarker somewhere around 4 yards. He's well over that.
1st and 10 from the Viking 38-yard line as Hand comes across and makes contact with the center, Burke. Didn't appear that he was drawn offsides. Norman Hand just anticipating the snap count and making contact with the center, the third-year man out of Harvard. Saints have been penalized 4 times for 25 yards. Burke is a guy who is going to the Pro Bowl, one of the most overlooked players on this team.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a guy that when they lost their starting center last year through free agency, they wondered what they were going to do. And ended up both these guys are going to the Pro Bowl.
That would be Jeff Christie, who went to Tampa Bay. 1st and 5 from the Viking 48. Culpepper hands off to Smith, stacked up by Johnson. Fields comes up and helps in on the tackle, limiting Smith to a loss on the play of about a yard.
The Saints are really getting a lot of good penetration in the backfield. I mean, it's almost like they know when the Vikings are planning on running, because every time they do, there's some white jerseys in the backfield, and that will definitely slow down this running game.
Joe Johnson has really done an excellent job of providing that penetration, playing across from left tackle Todd Stussy. It's a loss of 2 on the play and brings up 2nd and 7 from the Viking 41. Carter comes in motion left to right. Culpepper drops straight back. Throws, and is caught up around the 47-yard line, brought in by the tight end Johnny McWilliams. He'll be short of the first down. The Viking tight ends don't get a whole lot of attention, and rightly so when you've got guys like Randy Moss and Chris Carter and Robert Smith. They usually play them pretty equally. Johnny McWilliams is the starter, but John Davis and also Andrew Jordan all see action. And it brings up 3rd and 2 at the Viking 46. Walters in the game now, in motion from the right slot. Culpepper from the shotgun. Delivers, and it's caught in Saints territory at the 48-yard line by Troy Walters for a first down.
Well, the Saints are really going to have to do something to try and get some pressure on Dante Culpepper, because they just haven't been able to do it.
That's only the 2nd catch of that rookie's career. We have reached the 2-minute warning. Vikings moving and leading by a score of 10-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Andre, weekday mornings 9 to 11 on WWL 870 AM.
There's been no challenges this half, and when we have one, it'll be brought to you by Hibernia National Bank, the official bank of the Saints. Make Hibernia your official bank and trust all your financial needs with the one you know, Hibernia, where service matters.
Dante Culpepper is 8 out of 15 in this game for 142 yards. He's completed his last 3 passes, all of the 5-yard variety. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Saint 47. Tight end Davis in motion from his H-back position. Culpepper, play action. Saints can't get to him again, so he takes off. And he's going to run inside the 40. A lot of room. Inside the 30. 25-20. Heading to the sideline. He's upended by Molden. Fumbling the ball out of bounds, but it'll be the Vikings football. 1st and 10 at the New Orleans 17-yard line.
Well, Norman Hand had a shot at him, but Dante Culpepper is just so fast. Norman was in pretty good position. Not that he had him back in the pocket, but once he came out of there, but Dante Culpepper is just so fast that he ran away from the tackle of Norman. Give Norman a lot of credit for some great effort, but, I mean, that's just a guy that can run versus a guy that really can't run that well.
That's a gain of 30 yards for Dante Culpepper. He rushed 13 times for 73 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Bears in his first start this season, and they knew they had something special. He's run twice for 40 yards. 1st and 10 from the New Orleans 17, and Culpepper's going to have to call timeout with the play clock winding down to a single second. Well, Dante Culpepper a year ago only took 6 snaps, and I remember being here in preseason, and boy, the papers were all over Dennis Green. You mentioned it earlier about the decision that he was making to totally put the hands of this football team in such an unproven product. Dennis Green's made a lot of people eat crow this year.
Yes, he has, and I tell you what, you know, I mean, you almost kind of had to figure that, okay, well, with the supporting cast, he can get out there, you know, and make anybody look good. That's not the case. I mean, I've seen the guy just in today's game throw some great touch passes. You see what he can do when he breaks out of the pocket. He went down there just now. I mean, gets a 30-yard gain just coming out of the pocket. I mean, how many quarterbacks, especially that weigh 260 pounds, you know, are a threat to run the football the way he is?
And he's not running for the sideline. He's looking for people in the secondary to run over.
Absolutely, and that's what he did to Kevin Mathis that time. Most of your quarterbacks that got out there, that got on the boundary, and once somebody got close and stepped out, I'm sure that Dennis Green may have told him something that when he came to the sidelines. You know, look, we prefer that you not trying to run over these guys, but I think that's the mentality of the guy. He's got that toughness about him.
He has never missed a start at any level in his career, never missed a game, and he's playing with a damaged ankle and showing no ill effects from it. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Saints 17-yard line. They lead at 10-3, looking to get more before halftime. Culpepper, pump fake, looks, throws in the corner of the end zone, and it is going to be caught by Carter for the touchdown. Up and over Kevin Mathis in the corner of the end zone for a 17-yard touchdown reception.
I mean, what do you do on a situation like that? He just Culpepper makes a great throw into the corner. He knows right where Chris Carter is going to be. So all Chris Carter does is run to that spot, and he goes up. Fred Thomas actually had pretty good position, but you know what a great receiver that Carter is. When he reaches over Fred Thomas, and once it hits those hands, it's all over.
Chris Carter's first catch as a professional was a touchdown, and he's been doing it just like that for 14 years. What a weapon. He comes in with 96 catches on one side, Randy Moss with 77 on the other. Between them, 24 touchdowns. Gary Anderson adds the extra point, and with 1:29 to play before halftime, the Vikings now up on top of the Saints by a score of 17-3. Saints haven't had a whole lot of pressure on Culpepper. When they have, he's scrambled around very effectively. While the Saints are shutting down the running game, he's able to go to other facets of this multifaceted offense to move the ball.
Well, the only time I can really remember the Saints getting pressure on him was in the first quarter when we came out of there and they ended up calling offensive pass interference on the Vikings in the end zone. That last time when he ran for 30 yards, I mean, he just saw the Red Sea part and he saw where all the Saints defense had really dropped into deep coverage. He just did the smart thing and tucked it and ran with it.
7 plays, 73 yards, 3 minutes and 40 seconds for the Vikings in that drive. As the Saints, has a really tough turn of events for them in that they had good field position offensively, squandered it, hurt themselves with penalties when they might have seized some of the momentum from this game. Instead, the Vikings take over and march it right down the field, 73 yards for their second touchdown. Culpepper has hit Moss for 1 of 53. Anderson has kicked a 24-yard field goal, and Culpepper has just now hit Chris Carter from 17. The Saints only score a 33-yard Doug Bryan field goal, and with 1:29 to play before halftime, the Vikings are on top 17-3. Here's Berger to kick it away. Coming up to take it at his 8-yard line is Fred McAfee. To the 20, lowers his shoulder and gets to about the 25-yard line. Vikings have done a great job on special teams covering punts and kickoffs. Along with Kenny Wilkerson and Hokie Gajan, this is Jim Henderson in the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints radio network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader.
After an 18-yard return, 1st and 10 New Orleans from their 25. Saints have 2 timeouts with which to work and 1:24 on the clock prior to halftime. Brooks from the shotgun. Retreats, throws short over the middle to Poole. Poole dances and spins out of a tackle to about the 32-yard line. He was upended by Kenny Wright. Kenny Wright, one of the guys that they've tried on the left corner, lost his starting position to Waswa Surwenga, and now plays oftentimes in nickel and dime. After a gain of 6, it's 2nd and 4 from the 31 of the Saints. Brooks from the shotgun again throws short. This time it's Chad Morton. Morton trips and stumbles his way up to the 45-yard line for a first down. Clock shows 54 seconds to play before halftime, and the Saints will utilize their second timeout. They have 1 remaining. It'd be huge to get on the board in some fashion here before halftime. Take a little bit of momentum with you into the halftime locker room.
And you certainly can. You got plenty of time. And I mean, I don't think that the Saints, either offensively or defensively, have been intimidated by this crowd noise. The mistakes that they have made have been the holding penalties, things of that nature, something that crowd noise doesn't have anything to do with. And when they've had something going on offense, that's when that ugly mistake reared its head. You know, that somebody gets caught for the holding or 2 people moving in motion at the same time. So all they have to do is just put together something right here. They got 1 timeout left. You know, even if it's only a field goal, get this thing back within striking distance.
The Vikings have qualified for the postseason playoffs 8 of the past 9 seasons. They've won 4 NFC titles under Denny Green. Last year they were eliminated in the NFC Divisional playoffs by the Rams, 49-37. 1st and 10 New Orleans from the Saint 45. Brooks shouting to his wide receivers and is running back alongside Morton as he stands in the shotgun. Now he retreats. Now he guns the ball upfield, incomplete, intended for Reed. He tripped and stumbled and fell up at the Viking 45-yard line as the pass was being delivered.
Let's go down to Kenny Wilkerson with a Beater Springs Water State sideline report. Kenny?
Guys, I'm not quite sure why Mike McCarthy hasn't gone to more of this earlier on, but I know a major part of the game plan coming in was going to be to try to dink them down the field. At the same time, Ron Zook has been working on his defense since they came off the field and said, hey, it's no big deal. It's 1 play. We're fine. Let's hopefully hope for them that it works out that way, Jim.
2nd and 10 from the Saint 45. Brooks from the shotgun. Brooks steps up. Now he delivers a wobbly pass that'll fall incomplete. Intended for Willie Jackson. The coverage being provided by Keith Thibodeau out of Northwest Louisiana.
I think that ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage as the pocket just kind of kept closing in closer and closer to Aaron Brooks. Somebody might have got a hand up there and just tipped it because it didn't look very pretty heading down there and just dying to the ground.
Jackson has some words to impart to Aaron Brooks as he returns to the huddle. Saints look at 3rd and 10 now from the New Orleans 45-yard line. 35 seconds remaining before halftime. Brooks again from the shotgun. Vikings rush 4. Brooks dumps it off underneath to Morton. Chad Morton tripped up by Dwayne Rudd at the 46-yard line of the Vikings, and it'll bring up 4th down.
That was a good open field tackle by Dwayne Rudd. As quick as Chad Morton is, you figure that's a battle he'd win. But Dwayne Rudd wasn't the #1 draft pick for nothing.
The Saints called the timeout, and they'll think it over on 4th and 1 here. The Vikings have 2 timeouts remaining, 35 seconds left on the clock prior to halftime. Well, down in the locker room before the game, the Saints were very loose, playing their music. And in the course of my interview with Jim Haslett, I said, have you ever been able to determine how your team will play by the mood in the locker room? He said, never, ever. He said, I quit trying a long, long time ago.
Well, sometimes when you can't figure those kind of things out, there's no reason to lose sleep at night trying to figure it out. So you just say, hey, all I can do is just trust those guys when the official blows the whistle and it's time for kickoff, that they'll go out there and play.
The Vikings, of course, probably were going to be very emotional. The Saints knew that, backed by their home crowd, and it is a very boisterous one. The Saints talked about just withstanding the early onslaught of the Vikings and retaining their poise. Saints will go for it here on 4th and 1 from the Viking 46. Brooks is in the shotgun. Can't find anybody. Rolls to his right, being chased from behind. Running for all he's worth. He will take it out of bounds at the 41-yard line of the Vikings, and the Saints are able to convert on the athleticism of air run Brooks.
Well, I certainly like the call, not just because he made the first down, but, you're in a situation right now, you punt the ball to the Vikings, and with 40-something seconds left to go on the clock, they still got a chance to march it down the field. So, you've got nothing to lose, so go ahead and it's worth all the marbles right now. We've got to do something to get the ball down the field, try and score ourselves.
Brooks showing a lot of poise and presence of mind as a Viking was bearing down from behind on him. 1st and 10 for the Saints from the Viking 41. Brooks from the shotgun. Pocket collapses, and he's going to be wrestled down back at the 48-yard line. John Randall in on the sack, along with John Burrow. And that's the 2nd sack. Saints want to hurry up and run a play here with 20 seconds remaining on the clock. It's 2nd and 18. Brooks from the shotgun. Throws far sideline, incomplete, almost intercepted by Waswa Serwanga over on that far sideline with Jake Reed, the intended receiver.
That looked like that was going to be one of those go-stop kind of routes, and the only guy that really stopped was the cornerback, and as he turned back, he was the one that was in the nearest vicinity of the ball.
11 seconds remaining before halftime. Saints have no timeouts left. Saints look at 3rd and 16 with the line of scrimmage, the Viking 47. Vikings have some of their secondary, some 30 yards downfield. Saints with 3 wide receivers to the near side of the field, 1 to the far. Brooks from the shotgun. Going to throw it short for Morton. Chad Morton will run, stay in bounds, looking to get to the sideline. He'll twist and turn and get out of bounds as a late flag is thrown. Morton stopping the clock with just 3 seconds remaining, as he ran out of bounds in front of the Viking bench, but a flag was thrown back at the 44-yard line of Minnesota.
There's no foul on the play. The player did not trip the runner.
Well, as Morton was stumbling, one of the officials apparently thought he had been tripped. Another official told him otherwise, and so the flag is picked up, and we have time for one more play with 3 seconds remaining before halftime, and the Saints in a position where they could take a shot at the end zone here. The line of scrimmage is the Minnesota 41.
If you want to know something interesting, if you want to look out there and see who they're putting in at free safety, Randy Moss.
Yep, Randy Moss all the way back at the 11-yard line of the Vikings, playing center field, which he's fully capable of doing with his baseball abilities. Saints stack 3 wide receivers to the right, 1 to the left. Brooks at midfield. steps up, throws it deep, a rainbow into the end zone. Ball is batted up in the air and now down to the turf. Incomplete on the final play of this first half as the Vikings go to the halftime locker room leading the Saints by a score of 17-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
WWL 870 AM, the news, talk, and sports leader.
Welcome back to the Dome, everyone. Halftime, Vikings leading at 17-3. They got on the board first on a 3-play, 64-yard drive. Took only a minute 20 off the clock. And it happened with a 53-yard touchdown pass, Culpepper to Randy Moss to give them a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. Saints did come back with a field goal in that quarter, a 10-play, 65-yard drive that took 4:11 off the clock, and a field goal of 33 yards from Doug Bryan made it 7-3. That would be the only points the Saints would score, and that would allow the Vikings to get the ball back again at the end of the first quarter. They did drive it 12 plays, 67 yards in 6:10, getting a field goal of their own from Gary Anderson, making it 10-3. That was the way the first quarter ended. No scoring in the second quarter for the Saints. The Vikings did add a touchdown, a 30-yard run by Dante Culpepper, setting up a 17-yard pass to Chris Carter, and that's where we are at halftime, 17-3. They've had some big plays, a 53-yarder, 34-yarder, and a 20-yarder on passing, and then the Culpepper 30-yard run. That may have been just the difference in this first half. We'll be back. It is halftime, and our special guest will be Randy Mueller after this on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Okay, man, listen up. This is Ronnie Burgess, and I'm going to tell you the secret to a happy relationship. You want to watch football? No problem. As long as you let your wife look at tennis. A tennis bracelet, that is, from Oakland Hard Jewelers on Metairie Road. These people really know fine jewelry, and they got the best selection and best prices around. So for beautiful rings, necklaces, and oh yeah, diamond tennis bracelets, visit Oakland Hard Jewelers on Metairie Road and make someone happy.
Hi, this is Bob Del Giorno. Join me mornings, Monday through Friday, for the WWL 870 AM early morning news. We'll keep you informed minute to minute. I'm
This is Larry Matson with Randy Mueller, and Randy, has been an exciting trip this whole season, and to be up here in this situation has just been a fantastic year. And the Saints have had some open situations, just haven't been able to make the play the Vikings have.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it's been in the first half. They're an experienced playoff team. They've made some big plays when they had to. We've had some opportunities. You're right. We just kind of stubbed our toe or shot ourselves in the foot a couple times, and we got to sustain some drives a little better in the second half.
You've got to feel good about a team that is really basically an expansion ball club. They had the offensive line, the defensive line, that was pretty well set, and you had to expand around that, and you've had a team under Jim Haslett that has really come together in a rapid fashion.
Yeah, they really have. They come together a lot quicker than we actually anticipated, that's for sure. This is a good experience for our guys to come up here and play in an atmosphere like this, and I think that'll bring us closer together down the road, too. I think it's a good thing for us to go through, win or lose.
Jim Haslett had mentioned during the week that this team might get out in front of you, might be up 10, 14 points, but we've got the kind of football team, and we've proven in the past that we can come back from that sort of thing, and it's almost like a prophetic situation here.
No question. We knew we'd have to withstand some type of an onslaught up here. We didn't know. We didn't think it would be easy, and getting behind by 14 isn't really a surprise. They've done that to teams throughout the year. Now we've got to figure out some adversity, how we respond, and I think our guys have been fighting all year and we've kind of been behind the 8 ball, so we'll see.
It was emotional. I was not in the locker room or down that way before the game. Jim Henderson did his interview with Jim Haslett before the game down there, and he said he saw Joe Horn on the bench in the locker room actually crying because he could not play in this game.
Yeah, Joe's a passionate guy. He loves to play, and this is a great opportunity for him that he's looked forward to his whole career. He'll be back. If we can extend this, he'll be back next week. If not, he'll be back raring to go in that off-season program. But, you know, Joe's a guy that you'd like to have about a dozen of them because he really cares about his job every day.
Well, we didn't know whether this would be the last game or there would be another one or maybe even 2 more, hopefully. But that's why we wanted to have you on at halftime to talk to you about this and what a great job you've done all year. What an exciting year it has been for the entire city, the entire state. It was just a festive move all week. In fact, I think the fans are ready to play the game on Monday. I mean, they were ready to go.
Well, it has been good. It's been a great experience all the way around. Hopefully we can keep it going, but I think it definitely bodes well for us down the line, and that, you know, we get a couple more off-season transactions, a couple more players, some guys that can make plays, and maybe we'll be back here again. But right now we've got another half of football to go, so let's hope we can get it rolling here.
Another half, and you get away from the big plays on their side, and you make a couple on the Saints side, and it's a new ball game right away.
Yeah, we've had some opportunities. Aaron has missed a couple receivers. We've had some key penalties, and those are things we hopefully can correct in the second half.
The Saints had a 10-play drive to end the first half. Time ran out on them, so that might be a good omen as well offensively. Thanks a lot, Randy. Appreciate that. It's halftime. The score 17-3 Vikings. We'll be back with comments from Buddy D after this on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Back in the Dome here in Minneapolis, they've just concluded that race of the snowmobiles. That was just a preliminary practice before the game, and they had the official one here at halftime. Let's throw it back to Buddy D now for his commentary. Buddy?
All right, Larry. This Minnesota Viking team is one that I think can be had, but in the first half, the Saints simply weren't making the plays to take them. Twice the Saints lost drives sustaining first downs because of penalties. Alex Bolden missed an interception near the sideline in the second quarter that might have been 6, which certainly would have given the Saints possession deep in the Viking territory. Robert Wilson lost a drive-sustaining third down pass after Aaron Brooks kept the play alive with one of his Houdini acts of scrambling. Although Wilson is playing with a cast on his thumb, and that was likely the reason for the drop. The defense let Dante Culpepper loose for 30 yards on a scramble that set up the second Viking touchdown right after the 2-minute mark. You got to make these kind of plays and avoid drive-killing penalties in this type of game. The Vikings appear to be doubling on the Saints wideouts with regularity, which makes me wonder, where is the tight end? In this West Coast offense, the tight end's supposed to be a main cog. Bottom line, thus far, the Saints simply haven't played well enough on either side of the ball to pull the upset. But I still have the feeling the Vikings are a team that can be had today, but the opportunity for taking them is dwindling.
All right, those are the comments of Buddy D. Thank you, Buddy. And I can tell you the total net yards in this game, the Vikings have 81, the Saints 63. That's in the second quarter, and we haven't had the total come up to us, so the Saints have had a better second quarter, obviously, than their first quarter. And we'll be back with the start of the second half right after this on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Most of you know by now, Radiophone of New Orleans is now Alltel. But maybe you don't know about all the new goodies, like state-of-the-art digital network, new calling plans that have you covered locally and throughout the good old USA. I've touted the strengths of Radiophone for years as being the finest cellular phone service. Well, nothing's changed except the name. And Alltel has raised the bar with some new technology. Some of it is amazing. Call Alltel for details, and you'll see what the 21st century is all about.
Describe the Rush Limbaugh Show in 3 words or less.
The most listened to radio talk show in America, the most eagerly anticipated, a program which exceeds audience expectations on a daily basis, a program feared and loathed by its critics and enemies precisely because of the consistent effectiveness of the program and its exceptional host, me.
Some people. Rush Limbaugh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WWL 870 a.m. Catch New Orleans' Queen of Talk, Andre. Weekday mornings, 9 to 11 on WWL.
Let's take it right down to Kenny Wilkerson with the Beta Springs Water State sideline report. Kenny, what you got?
All right, Hokie, the team coming out of the tunnel right now, back out onto the sideline. It's my understanding that Jim Haslett didn't really read him the riot act in there a few minutes ago, but he did let him have it pretty hard and say, hey, you're a much better football team in this. You've got to make plays. When you've got the opportunity to make plays, you've got to do it. Y'all have done it during the season, but you have not getting it done today. Now, how much pressure that puts on his players remains to be seen, although he has done similar things like this in the past, and they usually respond. So we'll wait and see what happens and when they eventually do get their hands on the football. The Alex Bolden drop, the Robert Wilson drop, critical plays in this game thus far. We'll wait and see how they make out. Okay.
All right, Kenny, thank you very much. Robert Smith held pretty well in check on the ground, 10 carries for 16 yards. That was one of the Saints' primary goals coming into this game, but they have been hurt by Dante Culpepper's ability to scramble. 2 carries for 40, that scramble of 30 that really hurt the Saints in the second quarter. Ricky Williams has carried the ball 6 times, more than any other Saint running back, but for just 14 yards. His longest carry, that of 7 yards. Aaron Brooks in the first half, 12 out of 24 for 95 yards. He was sacked twice. His longest completion, just 16 yards. He was not intercepted. Dante Culpepper completed 9 out of 16 for 161 yards. He was not sacked. He threw 2 touchdowns, including a 53-yard strike to Randy Moss on the first series of the game for the Vikings, and it's the Vikings who will return the second half kickoff. So The Saints are still within striking distance, but as has been the theme throughout halftime, they have to make plays.
They have to do something. You know, Aaron Brooks had a couple of nice balls that he threw that were dropped. I mean, you know, Robert Wilson dropped the one, and we talked about he's got the cast on the hand, but that's a catch you got to come up and make. He threw one that was just a little higher to Jake Reed. Jake got his hands on it, but, I mean, you know, when you're in this type of atmosphere, you've got to make those kind of plays. And again, it's no fault of either one of those players. It's just a matter that at crucial times, you've got to come up with a crucial play.
And Aaron Brooks, for the most part, has been passing short to Chad Morton. He is the leading receiver, 6 catches for 41 yards. The longest reception by a Saint wide receiver in the first half, a 16-yard catch by Jake Reed, one of his 2 catches. So we are just about to begin. The winner of this game gets either the Giants or the Eagles. The Giants in New York or Philadelphia right here or in New Orleans should the Eagles upset the Giants in that one. Here's Toby Goins' kickoff. Walters will field it on a hop, a yard deep in his end zone. Bring it back to the 5, to the 10, to the 15. Breaks a couple of tackles at the 20 and is smacked down at the 22-yard line by Fred McAfee.
Pretty nifty little piece of running there by Walters. He jumped out there, and that's the thing that Fred McAfee has brought to this football team. I mean, he kind of understood what Walters was trying to do there, and as he got off his block, he jumped to the outside. Otherwise, Walters got that Saints sideline boundary over there all to himself.
Troy Walters taking over those duties from David Palmer, who has still yet to come back from the knee injury he suffered a couple of years ago sufficiently. He's inactive today. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 23-yard line. They move it left to right. On the first play of the second half, Smith gets the call, and he's ridden down by Joe Johnson after a short gain of perhaps 2 on the play.
Well, Robert ain't finding it any easier right here to begin the second half than in the first half. I mean, I think you really got to give the Saints defense a lot of credit. They really have played well up to this point, save for a couple of big plays against them. One being the pass to Moss, one being the run by Culpepper, and the other one being the touchdown pass to Chris Carter.
They do have big play weapons, and those 3 of their 4 big play guys all made them in the first half. 2nd and 8 from the Viking 25. Culpepper throws it in the short flat to his tight end Jordan. And Alex Molden goes down to get him low. As Jordan stretches the ball out, he'll be short of the first down on the near sideline.
You kind of got to be impressed with Dante Culpepper. I mean, he has spread the ball out pretty good today. He's throwing it to Kleinsizer, he's throwing it to Smith, obviously Moss and Carr, but both of his tight ends as well. I mean, he's doing a good job of mixing and matching things and keeping the Saints a little bit off balance, where you're just not focusing in on those 2 guys on the outside. You pretty well got to cover them all.
And it's Moss and Carter split out wide to the left. On 3rd and 1 from the 32 of Minnesota. Baxton and I. Culpepper throws it, completes it to Moss, and it's a streak down the sideline. He's running away from everybody. Sammy Knight can't catch him. There goes Randy Moss. Nobody will get Randy Moss. Touchdown, Minnesota.
Just like they started their first drive. 3 plays and a touchdown. A big one to Randy Moss, 3rd and 1. You figure it's going to be a running play. They just throw that hit screen out there that the Saints have run so many times. Once Randy Moss broke that first tackle, it's Katie Ball in the door.
It's a 68-yard touchdown reception by Moss, who had a 53-yarder on the first possession. Kevin Mathis came up to make the tackle. Moss just blew past him like he was standing still, and then it was a foot race that nobody's going to win besides Randy Moss.
Well, Randy Moss has got what you call long speed. I mean, he's not a terribly quick guy. I mean, that's not taking anything away from him because he does have some quickness, but there's a lot of guys that from 0 to 40 yards they're fast. Randy Moss is super fast once he gets past about 20 yards.
Gary Anderson adds the extra point, and the Saints mountain gets taller. With 13:33 to play in the 3rd quarter, our score is now Minnesota 24 and the Saints 3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Well, Randy Moss has 2 receptions in this game. Both have come on the first series of both halves. Each has been a touchdown, 1 for 53, 1 for 68. That's a pretty good yard per catch average.
Well, that's why people say he's the best in the league.
The Saints would not beg to differ at the moment. He has been the difference in this one. The Saints finding themselves down by 21 points early in the 3rd quarter. McAfee returns the kickoff from the 3. Across the 10 to the 15. Walsh has him, along with 5 more Vikings. He won't get to the 18. And this Viking crowd, if they had any doubts about their football team being able to come off that 3-game losing streak during the bye week and get itself back together, those doubts have been pretty much erased with their performance here thus far. They have been able to stop the Saints' pass rush. They've been able to hit big plays down the field. Dante Culpepper has been able to be maneuverable on that damaged ankle. Just about everything that they wanted to happen has so far. 1st and 10 for the Saints from the New Orleans 17-yard line. And Brooks drops the ball in the shotgun. He's going to cover it up way back at the 11-yard line.
I think the Saints were in illegal motion on that play. The flag came out, so in which case, even if Aaron didn't get it back, it would still be Saints ball.
There is a flag down along the line of scrimmage to the far side of the field.
Full start, 68, offense, 5 yards, still first down.
No play on the false start by Kyle Turley, so the Saints will be penalized 5 more yards. And we'll now look at 1st and 15 from their 12-yard line. Backed up close to this crowd that is growing ever louder as they smell blood. Brooks in the shotgun stands at the New Orleans 6-yard line. Puts Glover in motion. Calls for the football, well protected. Looks downfield, throws a wobbly pass that's caught by Wilson up at the 25-yard line. It'll be short of the first down.
Well, really, all you got to do at this stage of the game, Jim, I mean, you know, if you think you're out of it, I mean, you probably don't need to be playing this game anyway. It's a three-touchdown game. But all the Saints have to do is just peck away. I mean, if nothing else, you get out there and play for some pride, because up to this point, you have not played very well.
Robert Wilson's first catch of the day for 13 yards. Here's Brooks looking to throw again, delivers the football. A sliding grab is made by Jackson up at the 38-yard line. It's a good catch and a first down for New Orleans.
You know, it's a little bit amazing that the Saints could have used some of those big receptions in the first half. I mean, that was a much more difficult catch than some of the ones the Saints dropped in the first half. Willie Jackson gets down there and digs that one out of the dirt.
Jackson had 2 catches for 13 yards in the first half. The guy who caught 3 touchdowns against the Rams in the playoff game. On first down, Chad Morton stutter steps his way up to about the 42-yard line. Sometimes I think Chad tries to do too much. That time the hole was there, and instead of just blasting it up in there, he got to the hole and found himself dancing around, where if he just really hit it up in there, he probably would have had a much more substantial gain.
Well, a lot of times rookies do that. They try and make too much out of too little, and they also spend a little bit too much time thinking instead of just trusting what their eyes tell them to do.
It's a pickup of 3 nonetheless. 2nd and 7 for the Saints up at the New Orleans 42. 2 wideouts to the right. Glover comes in motion from his H-back position. Brooks out of the shotgun. Well protected. Rolls right, buying time. All the way back at his 28-yard line. Throwing on the run. Catch is made by Jackson. Inbounds are out. The officials confer. It's a good catch.
Wow.
It's a good catch at the 46-yard line of Minnesota, and a first down for the Saints.
That was a great catch by Willie Jackson. I mean, Aaron Brooks spent a lot of time back there rolling around. I mean, here again, I mean, he's trying to stay in the pocket. He's trying to become what you call a pocket passer. I mean, it looks like he's got some lanes to run, but there again, looking at the replay, great job, great awareness of where you are on the field by Willie Jackson just to get your toes in.
12-yard gain. Waswa Serwenga pushes him out of bounds. 1st and 10 New Orleans at the Viking 46, 11:24 to play third quarter, 24-3 our score Minnesota. Brooks looks to throw again, dumps it off for Morton. Nobody out there to help him. He'll be collared at the 41-yard line of Minnesota. And it'll bring up 2nd and about 5. Well, the Saints have been protecting Brooks a little bit better here. He seems to be finding a little bit more rhythm, but you wonder, is it going to be too late to find that rhythm when you're down by 21 points? But all he can do is just move the football and hopefully put it in the end zone eventually, and then hope his defense can come up with some big plays. Brooks again on 2nd down from the shotgun, delivers the ball. Catch is made by Jackson, spins away from a tackle, and he's down at the 20-yard line.
Go with the guy that you believe in the most, and that's obviously Willie Jackson here over the last couple of weeks. You go back, you look for him. I mean, smart play. You know, you almost got to figure that when Willie catches that ball, he's going to step out of bounds. Instead, he turns it back into the field of play, gets some nice yardage at the end of that catch.
Waswa Serwenga was waived by Kansas City in preseason, and now he starts on the corner. They're very weak on the corner, and the Saints are starting to exploit that. 1st and 10, New Orleans, from the 20-yard line of the Vikings. Just over 10 minutes remaining, third quarter. Brooks delivers a short pass to Morton. 2 blockers in front. Chad Morton inside the 10, inside the 5, pushed out of bounds. Just beyond the 2, it'll be 1st and goal, New Orleans.
One of the better screens that we have seen the Saints run this year. It was timed up just perfectly. When Chad caught the ball, he turned and looked out there. He had 2 linemen coming out in front of him, Chris Nioli and Jerry Fontenot. Both of those guys picked up people in the secondary for the Vikings. Chad makes a nice run and gets the ball out of bounds. He didn't try and get in front of the blockers, and he didn't hang back too far. Just well-timed, good rhythm on that one.
18-yard gain for Chad Morton, who was the Saints' leading receiver with 6 catches in the first half. 1st and goal, New Orleans from the 2-yard line. 9:42 to play, third quarter. Saints trailing 24-3. And a timeout is being called here by the Vikings.
Timeout, Minnesota.
So the Vikings unsettled defensively. They'll come to the sideline. We'll observe the timeout with 9:38 to play in the third quarter. Saints threatening, though trailing 24-3. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
News team is WWL 870 AM.
Saints have run 7 plays in this drive. Brooks has thrown on 6 of them, all completions. 3 to Jackson for 46, 2 to Morton for 24, 1 to Wilson for 13. As the Saints threaten here, with 9:38 to play in the third quarter, they have been held out of the end zone to date. It's 24-3, Vikings on top. Saints trying to claw their way back into it. 1st and goal from the Minnesota 2-yard line. Same formation, ends in tight. Tailback is Allen. Play action. Brooks rolls right. Stops. Looks back to his left. Throws back in the end zone. Touchdown. Caught in the back of the end zone by Dave Stahelski.
That's Dave Stahelski's maybe his first offensive play for the Saints this year. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time.
He only catches touchdowns. Dave Stahelski from 2 yards out. And boy, the cast of characters who've contributed to the Saints' success this year just grows longer and longer. The Robert Wilsons, the Brian Milnes, the Lamont Halls, the Dave Stahelskis for the touchdown there as the Saints put it in the end zone, and Doug Bryan comes on to add the extra point. Snap is back, kick is up and good, and with 9:33 to play in the third quarter, the Saints have put it in the end zone, and they trail the Vikings by a score of 24-10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
News, talk, and sports leader is WWL 870 AM.
Touchdown. That's another Domino's touchdown. That means $6 off your pizza order on Monday. Remember, that's $6 off your pizza order on Monday, only at Domino's Pizza.
I remember you predicted before the game you thought Dave Stahelski would have a big day and contribute mightily to the Saints' effort.
Yeah, yes, he did. I tell you what, I was shocked. I saw the number. I didn't know who it was. Who is the guy?
The Saints showing the possibility that they might kick it on sides, but don't, of course, with so much time remaining. Goins kickoff, fielded by Walters. It is 2. Up to the 10, 15, up to the 20, and brought down just short of the Viking 25-yard line. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader.
Here's the Saints Radio Network salute to all fans of the House of Blues today with Bob Del Giorno. The House of Blues, 225 Decatur in the French Quarter. Mr. Bob, go Saints, go.
A 22-yard return by Walters. 1st and 10 for the Vikings from the Minnesota 24-yard line. Davis in motion. Culpepper hands to Smith. Smith cuts it back against the grain and picks up about 3 up to about the 28-yard line. And the Saints continue to do a good job of bottling up Robert Smith. He looks very tentative, just can't find any place, any lane through which to run.
Well, you know, sometimes you get to doubting yourself a little bit when he had the 3 bad games to end the season, and now this game is not going very well for him. You know, you begin to lose your patience a little bit, and that was one of the things that I thought was one of Robert Smith's real strengths was his patience as a runner.
Though it was a 4-yard gain and brings up 2nd and 6 at the Viking 28. Saints corners coming up to play bump and run. They hand it off to Smith, sweeping left. He'll be brought down after about a 3-yard gain up around the 31-yard line. It'll bring up 3rd down Joe Johnson, who's been very stout against the run today, along with big Norman Hand on the stop.
Well, Joe knew coming into this ball game, well, the task at hand. I mean, Todd Stussy is not just your average everyday offensive lineman. I mean, that guy is as good as it gets in the league. Joe knew that he had to come in here and play up to his level of play because he's going to have his hands full all day.
Vikings averaged 320 pounds on that offensive line. It's 3rd and 2 from his own 32, and Culpepper moves into the shotgun. Saints showing blitz, rushing just 4. Culpepper throws a short pass to Carter. First down, makes a move on Thomas, who eventually brings him down at the 39-yard line, but that's a first down for the Minnesota Vikings. Culpepper very poised. It's just which one of these guys do I want to have the football in their hands this time?
Well, when you're in a situation like Culpepper's in, you say, really what we want to do right here is get the first down, move the chains. I know who I'm throwing it to. I mean, that's almost a play that's unstoppable. Carter lines up in the slot, just runs a little quick out, throw the ball on time, he's going to catch it.
Over 11,500 career receiving yards in a Viking uniform for Chris Carter, eventual Hall of Famer. 1st and 10 for the Vikings at the Minnesota 39. Moss in motion. Culpepper hands to Smith, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage by Glover, who makes a tackle down around his ankles. Smith falling forward to about the 41-yard line, a pickup of about 2 yards.
Well, I mean, if you're the Saints defense, the one thing that you don't want right now is a long time consuming drive. You feel you got a little something going on offense. Maybe you found something. Maybe you made some adjustments at halftime. I mean, what you can do offensively. The thing right now is to get those guys in the purple jerseys off the field.
Saints have been held sackless in this game. It's 2nd and 8 from the Viking 41. Culpepper in the shotgun. Saints coming with the blitz this time. Off the corner comes Knight, but the football is thrown in the flat to Kleinsasser, and he's going to be close to the first down, up around the 49-yard line, as Joe Johnson gets into it, defending Sammy Knight to Todd Stussy. It was Knight coming off the corner from his safety position, delivered a shot to Culpepper as he threw the football, but there is no flag.
Sammy's usually very well timed when he comes on a blitz, and that time he was just a split second late. Even though he got to Culpepper and gave him a shot after he delivered the ball, he was just a little bit off balance, so to speak, when he came on the rush.
It'll bring up 3rd and 1 after a 7-yard gain to the Viking 48. Saints crowding the line of scrimmage. Handoff Smith, first down and more, breaks 2 tackles and he's free, spinning down the left sideline, chased by Mitchell, who drags him out of bounds, down around the 27-yard line of New Orleans.
It looked like the Saints had that stuff pretty good. They got some penetration in the backfield, but once Robert Smith broke through that first layer of Saints defenders, he bounced it to the outside, picks up the huge gainer.
Robert Smith, who had been held in check. Boy, there was a hold in the middle of that line that went undetected by the official. Todd Stussy had his hands full of Joe Johnson. The officials didn't see it, and instead it's a 25-yard scamper for Smith and a first down for the Vikings at the same 27-yard line. 1st and 10 for Minnesota. 5:38 to play third quarter. Vikes on top, 24-10. Looking to add to that lead. Culpepper, play action. Lots of time. Throws deep over the middle. Dropped by Moss at the 5-yard line. Sammy Knight on the coverage. Moss had it on a perfectly thrown ball by Culpepper at the 5. Would have danced into the end zone for his 3rd touchdown, but for some reason he dropped the football.
Well, you're right. I mean, if he catches that one, that's TD number 3 for him today. It was a well-thrown ball, just right out on the end of his fingertips.
Culpepper had hit 8 straight before that incompletion, and that was another well-thrown football, as he has been extremely impressive here today and very poised. 2nd and 10 from the New Orleans 27. Carter and Moss split out wide to the right. Smith, the lone setback behind Culpepper, who juggles the snap, now hands it off to Smith, and he's going to be stopped at the line of scrimmage, as again the Saints play the run well on this occasion with Mark Fields, the first Saint tackler. Darren Smith there as well, along with Kevin Mathis.
Well, Jim, I think today you've gotten a real good first-hand look that for a long time this season, there were a lot of people out there across the league that thought Dante Culpepper was the MVP of this league. He was certainly in the front running, but then about the time that high ankle sprain hit him, his production did fall off a little bit. Marshall Faulk ended up winning it, but he's showing no ill effects of that ankle sprain today.
Culpepper won his first 7 starts this season as the Vikings broke out of the gate with a 7-0 start. 3rd and 9 from the 26-yard line of the Saints.
Saints coming with the blitz again. It's Culpepper rolling right, throwing as he's hit, and it's incomplete. Intended for Moss. The coverage by Molden. Fans want a flag. There is none. As the Saints now coming with more of their safeties, trying to disrupt Culpepper, who for the most part has been so well protected. He's had all the time in the world to look over the Saints secondary. Now New Orleans starting to take more chances, and that was Sammy Knight coming once again on the blitz. The fans are wanting a pass interference. I think that was a good no call by the officials. Just let the guys play football, because Alex never really grabbed him, never had a piece of his jersey, and never really did have hardly any contact with him. 45-yard field goal attempt by Gary Anderson is on the way, and it is good. Gary Anderson hits for the 23rd time in 24 attempts this season, and make it a 25 out of 26 with the one that he had earlier in the first quarter. And so the Vikings add to their lead, coming right back downfield following the Saints touchdown and getting 3 themselves. With 4:31 to play in the third quarter, it's now the Vikings 27 and the Saints 10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Touch all day, every day. WWL 870 AM.
7 Vikings are on their way to the Pro Bowl. Dante Culpepper being one of them. He's 13 out of 20 for 249 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and no sacks in this game. Mitch Berger steps into the football, and it'll be fielded at his 4 by McAfee. Up to the 15, running wide. He won't get beyond the 16-yard line. As the Vikings continue to do a good job on special teams, Pete Bursich on the stop, the backup linebacker. 4:21 to play, third quarter. It's the Vikings 27 and the Saints 10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
The Tigers and the Green Wave, WWL 870 AM.
Welcome back to the Metrodome. Jim Henderson along with Hokie Gajan and Kenny Wilkerson. The Saints trailing the Vikings 27-10 as the Vikings go 50 yards in 10 plays in 5:02, and Gary Anderson hits a 45-yard field goal. That following the Saints' only touchdown, the 2-yard pass, Brooks to Dave Stahelski. So Aaron Brooks brings up his offense to the line of scrimmage, and Ricky Williams is a member of that offense, standing alongside him as Brooks is in the shotgun. Calling for the football, retreating to his 8. Stepping up, looking like he will run. He will. Across the 25, across the 30, and he is met there by the strong safety Robert Griffith for the stop.
Now, Aaron Brooks has got to realize one thing. He's not Dante Culpepper. I mean, he's not going to dish out as much punishment to those secondary guys. That's a situation. I mean, I really and truly appreciate his effort here trying to get some extra yards. But the whole thing is, he gets hit and gets stoned, so just go ahead and lay down on the ground.
He's about 60 pounds lighter than Dante Culpepper. Same graduating class. 1st and 10 New Orleans. From the St. 30, Brooks trying to set up the screen for Ricky Williams, a juggling grab, and he falls down at the 31-yard line after a very short gain. It was read by Dwayne Rudd, the strong side linebacker.
Well, if that thing hadn't been disrupted so bad by the pressure that Aaron got in his face right away, I think Ricky's going to go for a long way on that one, because there was nobody on the Vikings out there, but he got pressure right in his face, and he couldn't do anything but just lob it up in the air, and that gave Dwayne Rudd a chance to collapse on Ricky.
It was linebacker Kylie Wong who was putting the pressure on Brooks. And it's a 2-yard gain up to the 32-yard line of New Orleans, where it's 2nd and 8. Brooks again operating almost totally from the shotgun, calls for the ball, sets up another short pass for Williams, and that's incomplete. He was covered by the middle linebacker Wong as Brooks was throwing it, falling away from pressure. Saints didn't have a whole lot of running attack in the first half, averaging just 2.8 yards per carry. And here with the turn of events in the second half and the Vikings continuing to pad their lead and the clock running down, the Saints pretty much totally abandoning that part of their offense.
Well, you pretty well have to. I mean, about the only thing you can do right now is be one-dimensional, and that's drop back and throw the football.
3rd and 8 from the New Orleans 32. Brooks from the shotgun, stands at his 24, throws it incomplete. It was intended for Glover. Looked like it might have hit the defender who was running with him, Robert Griffith, in the back for the incompletion.
That's exactly what happened. They kind of brought the house that time, put a lot of pressure. There just wasn't enough people to stay in there and pick up all the different blitzes. Somebody didn't read their assignment, and all Aaron did was he just throw it to a spot. That's about all he could do.
They could either hit Griffith or perhaps Glover himself in the back. It was Glover, hit him in the back just below the shoulder pads. So he never turned around for the football. Goen hangs his punt high, angling it to the far sideline at the 18-yard line. It's brought in by Walters. He gives ground all the way back inside his 15 where Brian Milne brings him down. As a flag has been thrown as well. Phil Clark was in on the stop. So too was Darren Smith. There's a flag down way back around the line of scrimmage. And the Saints left too early. The Vikings have the football if the penalties decline at their 15-yard line.
Kicking team player, number 40, downfield, prior to the kick. 5 yards, repeat 4th down.
That was Brian Milne who was in on the tackle, downfield too quickly. It's been quite a week for Brian Milne, a name that will forever live in the annals of Saints football after his recovery of that muff by Oz Hakeem in the waning moments of that victory last week. One of the many Saints role players this season who've played them well. The talent level on this football team can't compare with the Vikings, and at the moment that's showing. The Vikings leading by a score of 27-10 as their big play players, Culpepper, Moss, Carter, Smith, they've all contributed. Here's the punt that'll be fielded at the 28-yard line. Walters gets up to about the 32 where the snapper, Hauser, brings him down. A 45-yard punt. The Vikings will get much better field position. They would have had it back at the 15. Instead now they'll have it at the 35, 20-plus yards. And the Vikings, you would think, would stay cautious at this juncture of the game as there's a Saint. The Saints come onto the field now defensively with the Vikings looking at 1st and 10 from the Minnesota 32-yard line. They have not been slowed down for very long by this Saint defense here today. Backs in an eye, 2 wideouts to the right, 1 to the left. Saints blitz again. Culpepper with a tackler hanging all over him, throws it incomplete to the far sideline, intending for Carter. Joe Johnson had him down around that ankle, and Culpepper was not able to stride into the football with his throw.
Well, there Joe Johnson lines up as a left defensive end, which is where Darren Howard usually plays. You're talking about Joe hanging on Culpepper's ankle. It looks like Stringer was hanging a little bit on to Joe. But I will have to say this. I mean, I think the officials have pretty well let this game go along, let the guys play. There really hasn't been, except the one pass interference that the Saints got early in the ball game when the Saints were on offense, there really haven't been that many flagrant fouls.
Jim Haslett doing a little jawing with Chris Carter on the far sideline in good humor. 2nd and 10 from the 32, handing it off to Smith. Robert Smith is stopped at the 35-yard line of Minnesota, and it'll bring up 3rd down. Robert Smith, one of the patrons of the restaurant that we were at last night. I know you tried to slip him a bad walleye in his meal, hoping that he'd come down with ptomaine, but it didn't work.
I was actually hoping either you or one of those doctors, when he went by, would take that steak knife and just reach out to But, you know, y'all must have done something to him, because really, up to this point in the game, other than the one big run he had on 3rd down, he's been pretty well a non-factor.
We did our best. 3rd and 7 from the 35-yard line of Minnesota. Saints again showing blitz. Culpepper in the shotgun. Saints coming after him. Culpepper delivers, and going up to get it for the 1st down in Saints territory is Chris Carter down at the 47-yard line of New Orleans.
Every time you think you got something going, there's a 3rd and long situation. I mean, what is there not to like about Dante Culpepper? I mean, he's throwing the ball to the perfect spot. I mean, his numbers are pretty good today, but think what could have been, because he's had some drops, balls that he has thrown right on the money to different people. And I mean, his stats would just be phenomenal. Big thing for the Saints right now is they just can't get those guys off the field.
19-yard reception. Darren Perry on the stop. 1:27 to play in the 3rd quarter. Clock running. 1st and 10 Vikings. Saint 46. Vikings lead at 27-10. On the toss to Smith. He sweeps it right. Sammy Knight has to bring him down at the 42-yard line with some help from Leroy Glover. And this is a defense that has to be getting pretty tired, you would think, trying to stay with all the weapons that the Vikings have after playing back-to-back games against the Rams. And it was pretty evident what they had left late in that game in their secondary and in their linebacking core running with those guys.
Well, and this is turning out to be very much the same way of what the Vikings are doing right now. I mean, they're just chewing up the clock, which is what they've done their last 2 possessions.
2nd and 6 from the 42-yard line of New Orleans. Carter in motion, Culpepper in the shotgun. Saints rush 4. Culpepper sets up the screen, and it's bobbled and dropped by Smith. Norman Hand sort of disrupted it with his presence as he was dropping off and getting in the throwing lane, being blocked by the left guard, Corbin Lucina.
Norman might have even got a hand on that ball a little bit. He kind of just sticks it up there at the last second, and that might have been just enough to deflect it. I believe he did.
He did get a little bit of a
he got just enough of it.
And Smith still could have made the reception, but it changed the flight of it just somewhat, and it ended up falling down around his knees. He couldn't come up with it. 3rd and 6 from the 42-yard line of New Orleans. 2 wideouts to the left, the dangerous Randy Moss to the right. Saints showing blitz, and this will be blown dead. Looked to be movement along the line by the Vikings as they anticipated this pass rush. And if it's Stussy, we'll hear what the crowd has to say.
Prior to the snap, full start, 73, offense, 5 yards, still 3rd down.
Well, Todd Stussy, the left tackle, is famous for that. He has a league-high 10 false starts in this game, and during the week, he was actually getting on the Vikings fans about quieting down while the Vikings are on offense, and they didn't take too kindly to that. And it was he who was guilty of the false start, and it brings up 3rd and 11 at the New Orleans 47-yard line. 2 wideouts to the left, Hatchett wide right, Saints showing blitz, Culpepper in the shotgun. Retreats to his 45, throws left sideline, and it's incomplete. Intended for Carter, the coverage by Kevin Mathis.
I see Jim Haslett over there. He's raising Cain about something. I don't know. He might be looking for some offensive pass interference. And there you go. You see it again. He and Chris Carter getting in that little jawing back and forth.
Well, you know, Haslett is such a competitor. I think he'd like to strap it on himself and play in these situations. He gets frustrated. I think he's a little sick of the way the Vikings whine after every incomplete pass. Whether it's Moss or Carter, they're always whining to the officials. They're great receivers, but they never feel that if they don't catch the ball, they haven't been interfered with. Mitch Berger to punt it away as the Saints have held here with 33 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. Snap is back to Berger, and this will be blown dead too. Again, it looked to be movement by the Vikings offensive line. And it is a false start. So this has been a very sluggish end to quarter number 3.
Well, this is about the only time that's really been sluggish for the Vikings this game.
Full start, 66, offense, 5 yards, still 4th down.
That is Jim Nelson, a linebacker. And the television broadcast replaying some of the comments on the sideline with Jim Haslett getting in the face of Chris Carter, telling him to quit complaining and go play football. So now we'll try it again, 5 yards closer to the Viking end zone. Berger to punt it away. He drills this one. Morton's going to let it hit a yard deep in the end zone, and after a 52-yard effort, the Saints will start from their 20 when we return with just 23 seconds remaining here in the 3rd quarter. It's been a quarter in which the Saints have scored a touchdown, a 2-yard strike, Brooks to Dave Stahelski. His first catch as a Saint is a touchdown in this playoff game. But the Vikings have controlled the football for the most part, and they have scored 10 points of their own, a 68-yard touchdown on the first series. Culpepper to Randy Moss, and a 45-yard Gary Anderson field goal. The lead is 17, certainly not insurmountable, but you get the feeling that the Saints defense maybe can't stop this Viking offense when they need to all day long. At least not until they pick up a first down or two. 1st and 10, New Orleans. Brooks throws near sideline, picked off by Tate. He's got the interception at the 30-yard line.
Well, the thing that the Vikings are doing is they're stealing a page out of the Saints playbook, is that they're coming with a lot of blitzes. Aaron just made a poor decision right there. Kenny Wright was in pretty good position, and Aaron just kind of threw the ball out to the sideline and kind of hung it up. Excuse me, that wasn't Kenny Wright, that was Robert Tate.
Robert Tate on the interception, his 3rd of the season, including the regular season. This is something the Vikings do not do well. They came into the game with an NFL low, 8 interceptions on the season, none returned for a score. But they're able to take some chances now with the Saints throwing on every down, and Robert Tate, the right corner who originally came to this team as a wide receiver, picks it off at the Saint 29-yard line, 1st and 10, Vikings. Culpepper going to run on the option left, and Culpepper inside the 25 down to the 23-yard line. He had Smith to pitch the ball to. Instead, he kept it himself for the final seconds of this third quarter.
Well, that's just a play that you don't see in the NFL as the option, but we did see it in the preseason. Dante Culpepper did exactly the same thing. He came down there, looked like the old option quarterback you see at college.
After 3 quarters, it's the Vikings 27 and the Saints 10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Get me some more talk, and sports leader is WWL 870 AM.
Welcome back to the Metrodome. 15 minutes remaining in regulation. It's been a workmanlike effort by the Vikings as they have led throughout and lead at the moment 27-10. It was 10-3 Vikings after the first quarter, 17-3 at the half, 27-10 now as we head to the final 15 minutes. Jim Henderson along with Hokie Gajan and Kenny Wilkerson along with Larry Matson as well. The Vikings looking to move on and either head to New York to take on the Giants or host the Eagles next week. They move it right to left on the first play of the fourth quarter, pitch it out to Carter on the near sideline, dragged down by Thomas, but not before he picks up the first down inside the 20, down to around the 17-yard line. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader.
Vikings controlling the ball for 8 minutes and 47 seconds of the third quarter. Now have it 1st and 10 at the New Orleans 17-yard line. Carter in motion, handoff Smith running right. He'll be wrestled down by Glover and Howard at the 15-yard line, just inside it, closer to the 14.
Well, Jim, you know, right before the Vikings were forced to punt, you were talking about how tired the Saints defense was probably getting, spending so much time out there in the clock. And the one thing that they didn't need a 3-and-out, much less a 1-and-out, and that's what they got.
The interception by Tate at the New Orleans 29, and the Vikings looking to capitalize and add more points to their lead. 2nd and 7 from the Saint 14-yard line. Culpepper moves from the shotgun up under center. 3 wide receivers stacked to the right. Smith behind him. They pitch it to Smith running right behind those blockers. He'll be wrestled down this time short of the 10-yard line. Alex Molden there along with Darren Perry. And I think about now probably the Saint cornerbacks and safeties welcome seeing those Viking wide receivers out there in a blocking role because they get to give them a shot or two. I think everybody's getting pretty frustrated about now, and maybe the reality of a long season starting to set in on this very proud Saints team. Outmanned again here today, and at the moment outscored by 17. 3rd and 4 from the New Orleans 11. Carter and Hatchett to the near side of the field. That's where Culpepper looks out of the shotgun, delivers it inside to Carter. He makes the catch down to about the 7-yard line. It'll be 1st and goal.
And I tell you what, Jim, I mean, he's just as good as having a running back out there, even though he's playing wide receiver, because, I mean, he just catches so many balls. He's so clever. He's got so much savvy about it. He knows where the sticks are. All he's got to do is get there. I promise you, he goes in the huddle and says, I mean, there's nothing fancy with that little hook route he just runs. He just tells Dante, I'm going to get down there. I'm going to get beyond the first down marker. Just open the ball on time.
Not much he hasn't seen during his 14-year career. He's got 123 touchdowns from 12 different players. 1st and goal for the Vikings from the Saints 7-yard line. Hatchett goes in motion. Handoff Smith. On his back is William Whitehead. No gain on the play. In fact, Carter's so smart that Carter from his position in the slot saw that Hatchett hadn't gone in motion and was motioning to Hatchett go in motion. I mean, he understands everybody's role.
Actually, what happened, I mean, you'll see right here, he's pushing him over there. I mean, he's saying, you're in the wrong place, Matthew. You got to get to the other side. I mean, that's being not only just a total team player, but knowing what in the world's going on.
No gain on the play. It's 2nd and goal from the 7. Wideouts left and right. It's Carter split out wide to the left. To the right, it's Moss. Here's Culpepper scrambling around, running to his left. Wants to take it himself and is upended at the 2-yard line on the tackle by Perry. Dante Culpepper almost ran that one in. He had a scramble of 30 yards in the first half, fully capable of that.
Well, you know, Dante Culpepper and Robert Smith are the only two players to have any rushes whatsoever for the Vikings in this game. And with the production that they put up so far, they don't need anybody else to carry it. And I mean, this is the one thing that has been a constant with the Saints all year long. The teams that give them the most trouble are the teams that have a quarterback that move around.
You saw Donovan McNabb come of age against the Saints earlier in the year with the Eagles. That was sort of his coming out party on his way to a season that came close to garnering most valuable player honors. We saw Dante Culpepper in preseason show that he looked to be the real thing, and he certainly has been and looks to be here today. A timeout has been taken by the Vikings with 10:50 to play here in quarter number 4. Minnesota on top of New Orleans 27-10.
This is Limbaugh, weekdays 11 to 2 on WWL 870 AM.
8th play of this drive upcoming for the Vikings. Denny Green tried to sell his team on this as a fresh start to a new season. And they played like that after coming into this off 3 defeats in their last regular season games to Indianapolis, the Packers, and the Rams. They've been most impressive. 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line for the Vikings. 2 wide receivers to the right, 1 to the left. Baxton and I. Smith, the tailback. Finds Sasser, the fullback. It's Smith who gets the call, and he's in. Robert Smith scores the touchdown as Chris Holden tripped him up on his way to the end zone, but at the moment this is a pretty dispirited bunch of Saints defenders.
Well, you know, there's so many things you can do with having that bye week during the going into the playoffs. Number one, it helps you get healthy. It helps you get rested. It can help you get your mind right. I mean, Dennis Green hadn't gotten this team to the playoffs 8 out of the last 9 years by not being a good coach and not having a great coaching staff. And he probably knew that they had just exactly what they needed. And you're right, it was a fresh start for them. They were able to sit down and really break down the Saints football team and probably be better prepared. I mean, the Saints, they've overcome so many different things this year that, it's not a fitting end to the way their season has been, but just the fact that they are continuing to play hard, even though it's a lopsided game right now.
Anderson's extra point makes it 34-10 Minnesota with 10:46 to play in the 4th quarter. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
The station that keeps you connected 24/7, 365. WWL 870 AM.
After Robert Tate's interception at the Saint 29-yard line late in the 3rd quarter, the Vikings punch it in early in the 4th. 8 plays, 29 yards, 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Robert Smith going over from 2 yards out, and the Vikings lead the Saints by a score of 34-10. Here's the kickoff by Berger. Fielded at the 4 by McAfee. 10, 15, running left 20 across the 25. Fast Freddie McAfee collared just short of the 30-yard line. Viking is shaken up back at the 19-yard line, but now coming to his feet, and that's Pete Versich.
Well, and the reason for that is you see a lot of those guys on those Viking special teams units. I mean, you talk about running down the field with reckless abandon. I mean, they throw their bodies in the way of anybody, and you take a lot of collisions that way, and sometimes you get your senses knocked a little bit crazy, and that's what happened to Versich. But he got up off the ground, came to the sideline.
Well, the Saints are playing for pride at the moment, down by 24 with 10:36 to play. The officials now holding up play momentarily. As there's a Viking shaken up. Looks like one of the defensive backs cramped up. That is Robert Tate, who earlier had the interception. He's got a tightening hamstring, it would appear, as he limps to the sideline, and so that was the reason for the stoppage in play. And he'll be replaced by Keith Thibodeau. 1st and 10 for the Saints from the New Orleans 29. From the shotgun, Brooks throwing the slant incomplete for Reed up at the 40-yard line. The coverage by Keith Thibodeau out of Northeast Louisiana. And in this game, as you mentioned, you can't give up big plays, and the Saints really hadn't much of the year. Today they gave up way too many of them, and they don't have many playmakers of their own left.
Well, I mean, the well eventually had to run dry. I mean, when Joe Horn went down, Willie Jackson stepped up last week, but I mean, the Vikings really have their entire arsenal to come at you with.
2nd and 10 from the 29. Brooks throwing, catch made by Jackson. Tackled immediately up around the 38-yard line. Rudd. They'll spot the football close to the first down. It would appear to be just short. Bring up third and a couple of feet.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the Vikings defense today has not looked like one of the worst in the league.
No, and they were the worst defense still remaining in the playoffs. They have not looked it. Third and less than one. Brooks half roll out to the right, delivers the football, and it's incomplete. That was almost intercepted by Waswa Serwenga, as he should have had that.
Well, it looks like the Saints offense is going to stay on the field and go for it on fourth down. I mean, I guess as we figure it's 34-10, we got nothing to lose, so we'll just keep those guys out on the field.
Been a long day for the Saints coaching staff as Jim Haslett looks up at the time remaining. He will go for it on fourth and less than one. From the New Orleans 39. And they'll go for it again from the shotgun with four wide receivers. Brooks throws short. Morton with the catch, brought down by Rudd. First down, New Orleans at the 43, make it the 44-yard line of New Orleans. That's a 6-yard gain.
Well, you pretty well figure that's what the Vikings are going to do. I mean, obviously they'd like to stop them on fourth, but they're going to make sure they don't get something real big, so they just gave up that underneath route.
First and 10, New Orleans at the Saint 44-yard line, 9:27 to play. Brooks throws again over the middle on a short route. It's Jackson who makes the catch. Spins away from two tacklers before he's brought down by Wong, short of midfield. One of the Vikings on his way to the Pro Bowl is Robert Griffith, a strong safety in his 7th year out of San Diego State. But other than that, there's not a lot of talent on this defense, according to most folks. Here's the pass to Morton near sideline, and he is hit immediately by Serwenga, limiting him to a short gain on the play, short of the first down, and it'll bring up third down for New Orleans.
Well, that's another situation there. Chad Morton, I mean, you're trying to do a little bit too much. Just catch that ball and go up the field. You've got the opportunity to make the first down, but instead he gives ground, and now the Saints are in a situation where 3rd and 1, where he would have gotten the first down had he just taken it up the field.
Saints in a posture of going for it. Should they not get it here on third? Converted earlier in the drive on 4th and short. This is 3rd and 1, and Brooks is going to head to the Saints sideline. Taking a timeout, leaving the Saints with 2 with 8:22 to play here in the 4th quarter. Vikings leading it by a score of 34-10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Talk with Buddy T. Now weekdays at 5 on WWL 870 AM.
Aaron Brooks, 24 out of 40 in this game for 206 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Jackson and Morton have each caught 7. Jackson for an average of just 10 yards per reception. Morton a 7 yard per reception average. Ricky Williams has played sparingly and has not been a factor in the game plan since the Saints have had to resort to the shotgun on virtually every play of the second half, trailing as they do by 24. 3rd and 1 from the 47 of the Vikings. From the shotgun, Brooks throws short. Catch made by Jackson. First down at the 42-yard line of Minnesota.
The thing that's a little bit surprising right now is the fact that Aaron Brooks is getting hit just about every time he throws the ball, and the Vikings are only rushing 4 people. They're dropping in a deep zone. They'll give them all that short 3, 4, and 5 yard stuff, but Aaron is still taking some shots.
First and 10 from the Viking 42. Saints hurrying things up. Brooks quarterback draw inside the 40, running to the 35 to the 34-yard line where John Burrow, the defensive end, brings him down, along with the linebacker Dwayne Rudd.
Definitely a designed quarterback draw. As soon as he got the snap, he just took off. And I mean, that's one way keeping the Vikings a little bit off balance. Just let Aaron gain himself some yards on the ground. And, now you're sitting in a 2nd and 2 situation.
He picks up 8. 2nd and 2 from the 34-yard line of Minnesota. Brooks looking, throwing short again, dumping it off to Morton. Chad Morton with those quick feet down to the 22-yard line. And it'll be first down for New Orleans.
Well, Aaron's playing some pretty smart football right now. I mean, he knows he doesn't have to try and force the ball down the field, so he's just kind of dinking and dunking and chipping away. Try and get this ball in the end zone.
13-yard gain. First and 10, New Orleans from the Viking 21. 7 minutes to play. Saints trail 34-10. Brooks looking to throw again. Throws low. The catch is made by Poole. A sliding grab at the 16-yard line. The coverage by Antonio Banks. Antonio Banks, a third-year man out of Virginia Tech, got some ink this week as a guy who had competed against Aaron Brooks in high school. 2nd and 5 from the 16-yard line of Minnesota. Brooks looks, pumps, now throws, and it's intercepted. He threw it right to the linebacker, Wong.
Well, he made a pump fake. Keith Poole was running a quick slant, and he made a pump fake to him. Keith took his eyes off the ball and continued on in the end zone, and Aaron just threw it on it right after the pump and threw it right to Kelly Wong. Or was that Rudd?
That was Wong, but I think he gave the ball to Rudd, and Rudd, perhaps hoping that Wong had not been touched down and not hearing a whistle, got up and decided to sprint all the way to the end zone with it. But they're going to rule Wong down after the interception, deep in Viking territory. Brooks pumped left, threw short. Looked like he was trying to hit Poole, but Poole never turned around for the ball.
Well, Poole broke his route off and was going into the end zone, and Aaron threw it right where Keith Poole should have been. So I don't know if it was a mistake on Aaron's part or Keith just aborted his route too soon.
So the second interception of the second half for the Vikings, who had but 8 of them during the regular season. It occurs at the 11-yard line of Minnesota. Smith runs right, not for much. And there, Glover, so too Howard. Well, you look at this team that looks like it will now be concluding its season. It's been a wondrous season. No one ever expected this. And they eventually just ran out of talent.
Well, and that's exactly what happened. You know, I mean, they kept it together for a long time with some baling wire and tape and some bandages here and there. But you finally get to a point in time, especially when playoff time rolls around, that the lack of talent will catch up with you. I mean, these guys have played their hearts out, but they just don't have the playmakers on offense anymore.
2nd and 8 from the Viking 13. Smith again with the call, running right. Sammy Knight's on his back as he crosses the 15 up to about the 16-yard line. Now, this is a Viking team that really kind of has become rejuvenated, you would think, here today. They clinched the playoffs earlier than any team, and then just kind of put it on cruise control, ended up facing teams that did have more urgency, did have playoff aspirations, were playing for something, and they kind of went flat. Denny Green made that point to them, and they look to be a factor here. They're very happy they don't have to face the Rams.
Well, they may be right, because, I mean, then you get into a run-and-gun thing with those guys.
And it was the Rams who beat them late in the season. 3rd and 5 from the Vikings 16. Vikings trying to run out the clock on this victory. Culpepper looks to throw. Does over the middle. Snatch is made by Carter. And Perry brings him down with a shoestring tackle at the 39-yard line. And Carter comes over and poses in front of the Saints bench and has some words with Haslett.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you can do all those kind of shenanigans out there when you can back up your actions and your words, and Chris Carter can definitely do that. I mean, it's just a simple crossing route, but he leaves the Saints just kind of standing flat-footed. He's wide open in the middle of the field.
Makes a beautiful catch out away from his body. And he's got 8 receptions for 119 yards, does Chris Carter. 1st and 10 for the Vikings at the Minnesota 39. Culpepper hands off to Smith. Smith stopped at the line of scrimmage by Norman Hand.
Well, you almost have to wonder how long would Denny Green keep Robert Smith in there. He was a little banged up toward the end of the season. Didn't really get things going in the running game. Hasn't really been able to get things going in the running game today. You know, with just under 4 minutes to play, I think you might put a backup in there because, you know, it's pretty obvious that the Vikings are going to win this football game. Make sure that Robert Smith stays healthy for your playoff run. But who am I to question what he's doing?
Mo Williams stands on the sideline. He would probably give Smith a breather if Denny Green makes that decision. The Saints have called a timeout with 3:36 to play. We'll observe it as well. 3:36 left in this most magical season, it would appear, for the Saints, with the Vikings on top by a score of 34-10. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Tulane and LSU, WWL 870 AM.
Carter comes to the sideline during that timeout, accorded a standing ovation by this sellout crowd in the Metrodome, finishing his day with 8 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. Dante Culpepper, 17 out of 29 for 301 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He has run the ball 4 times for 50 yards. And he was never sacked by the Saints to date. 2nd and 10 from the Minnesota 38. Here's Culpepper going to throw it on the near sideline, and it's overthrown and incomplete for Hatchett. Fred Thomas running with him along the near sideline in front of the Viking bench.
Well, I mean, there's a team, the Vikings, I mean, when they're on offense, I mean, you talk about a team that goes for the throat all the time. I mean, they took Chris Carter out of there, and what do they do the first play after that? I mean, they go for the long ball down the sidelines.
Hatchett hasn't seen much of the football today. I don't believe he has a catch. It's been Carter and Moss primarily, with Walters having one. Smith out of the backfield, used as a target occasionally. So many weapons for Dante Culpepper, the 11th pick in the 99 draft. A star in the making if he's not already there. 3rd and 10 from the 38-yard line of Minnesota. Culpepper from the shotgun. Joe Johnson bearing down on him. He throws it wide to the near sideline, intended for Johnny McWilliams. And for one of the few times today, Culpepper was smacked to the turf on delivering the football by Joe Johnson.
Well, you know, Jim, I think you hit the nail on the head just a minute ago. I mean, there was so much hype about that quarterback class that came out there a couple of years ago. And, I mean, in my opinion, it's clear right now that the 3 leaders in that bunch are 2 guys that are playing here today, and Aaron Brooks and Dante Culpepper, and, of course, Donovan McNabb.
And that could be an interesting matchup next week if it's Culpepper and McNabb going against one another. So the Vikings will punt it away with 3:27 to play. Berger stands back at his 24. Chad Morton awaits it. Mitch Berger, this is a low, wobbly effort. Fielded at the 22 by Morton, up to the 30, and he'll get to about the 34-yard line. And so we have 3:17 left in this game. The Saints trailing by a score of 34-10. 44-10 was the first playoff game between these guys, right? Back in 87.
That's right. Saints' first playoff appearance. That was played down in the Dome, but the end result is not really that much different. I mean, pretty well a dominating performance by the Rams offense, or the Vikings offense.
And in that one, as I recall, at least the Saints had an early lead, but it was short-lived. The Saints never led today. The closest they got, 7-3 in the first quarter after 33-yard Doug Bryant field goal. The Vikings have had things pretty much their own way in every facet of the game. Brooks on first down. Pumps, throws short. Chad Morton across the 40, sliding down at the 43-yard line, close to the first down. As the clock shows 3 minutes remaining. Saints have 1 timeout left should they choose to extend this game, the outcome of which is no longer in doubt. 2nd and 1 from the 43. Brooks throws short again. Again, it's Morton. Chad Morton into Viking territory to the 48-yard line.
Well, Chad Morton is seeing, without question, his most extensive playing time of the season, especially with the number of touches that he's had today. You know, we knew back during the preseason he was going to be something a little bit special with his return ability, everything else. I mean, he's showing something right now. The kid's still out there on the field playing hard.
He's tied a playoff record with 13 receptions in this game. Here's Brooks throwing long, this time to Jackson. Jackson's got it inside the 20, breaks the tackle, 10, 5, Willie Jackson, touchdown.
Well, it was a big play by Aaron Brooks. I mean, the Vikings had kind of gotten a little bit into a lethargic mode, saying, okay, well, you know, he's just going to dump the ball over the middle. That time he kind of hits him with the big play down to Willie Jackson across the middle. And again, that great run after catch ability that Willie Jackson had, and compliment Keith Poole on a nice block downfield to help get him into the end zone.
A 48-yard touchdown hookup between Brooks and Willie Jackson. And Willie Jackson, his 4th touchdown receiving of these playoffs. He had 3 last week. And you look at this football team, and there's a guy that nobody counted on to make this kind of contribution. Just making the team in Thibodeau would have been enough. He barely made it there, and look what he has done since.
I'll be honest with you, when he showed up in Thibodeau, I didn't really know who the guy was because he's been just a nondescript player in his years in the league.
Saints will go for 2 here. Morton goes in motion out of the backfield. Brooks looks right, throws left, and it's incomplete. Intended for Reed. Broken up by the defender Tyrone Carter, the rookie out of Minnesota. And when you look at guys like Willie Jackson, you look at Robert Wilson, the Brian Mills, I think the one thing you take away from this season is that if the Saints can stay more injury-free next year than they did this, and it'd be hard to have a worse year injury-wise, the people that should come back and contribute give you the opportunity to perhaps have a great deal of depth on this team.
I mean, and I believe you do, because what you have seen from these guys from the early going is that they, number one, they filled in very admirably as starters. I mean, just think what they would be as backups. I mean, they would be quality backups. I mean, to know you had a guy like Andrew Glover to be your backup to Cam Cleveland, whether he's healthy or not. To know that you're saying that your third best receiver might be Willie Jackson. I mean, you know, what he's done here in the last couple of weeks, and just in the time that he's been able to be on the field. You still got Keith Poole out there. You'll have Ricky Williams back healthy. You're seeing what Chad Morton's doing today. So it would be a situation where it would be this team something that they've never had, and that's a lot of depth. Let's take it down to Kenny Wilkerson with the Bee Springs Water Saints sideline report. Kenny?
And of course, guys are going to be going for the onside here, and the touchdown was good, but it didn't get too much excitement down here on the sidelines. There's, as you can well imagine, a lot of disappointed players, a lot of tears. Norman Hand in tears, got his head covered up. Many people are coming over to him, including Ron Zook and Joe Horn, to console him. A disappointing way to end the season for the Saints.
Saints go with the Cajun kickoff, trying to angle the onside effort to the near sideline. Doesn't go 10 yards and goes out of bounds. The Saints will be penalized.
Well, that's something that they're going to have to work on a little bit more, because even the couple of times that the Saints have done it, they have yet to get it the required 10 yards you need to try and recover an onside kick.
The odd formation that we saw early in the year, in which the Saints utilize both their place kicker and their punter and choose one or the other to kick it in one direction or the other, holding off on the strength of their formation to the very last second. But I do not believe that the ball went 10 yards. Well, there's one call. There's going to be two calls here. Illegal procedure against the Saints, and the ball didn't go 10 yards, and the Vikings were offside.
Offside, 28 on the receiving team. Kick off out of bounds. On the kicking team, those penalties will offset. We'll re-kick the first short free kick.
That was Robert Tate who was offsides. And another thing that you think about is what this coaching staff has brought, and that's not going to go away any day. What they have brought is the ability to never give up, to judge talent, to get guys to play somewhat beyond the capability that maybe even they thought they had. That's another thing that you look at when you look down the road and see better days ahead.
Well, and in my opinion, the thing that's always made a great coach is a guy who is a great teacher, and I think that that's what this group of coaches that Jim has assembled is a group of good teachers.
Saints will try it again, and again it's going, and it's going to be fielded by Jackson, who slides down. Well, now they're going to throw a flag on this too. Perhaps this didn't go 10 yards before Willie Jackson came away with the ball.
Well, that is correct. It didn't go the required 10 yards.
Jackson took it in stride and was into Viking territory to about the 45-yard line when he was tackled. But then a late flag was thrown, and it's going to go against New Orleans. That's the early indication.
Illegal touching on a free kick, number 88 of the kicking team, before it went 10 yards, 5-yard penalty, and re-kick.
It was awfully close, but that was a good call.
There's no question. I mean, it happened right here in front of us. We're looking right down on it, and I mean, it really worked out well for the Saints that, it would smooth and everything else. Problem was, Willie just got it 1 yard before he should have, or he needed to.
Well, way back when we were here in preseason, it seems almost like it was years ago, the Saints took a last-second victory on a Doug Bryan field goal, and it was their only victory of preseason. Back then, you're wondering, how many games can this team win? Most of the experts thought 5, 6. I know you were optimistic. I had said 7, and after watching them in preseason, crawfished on that. I didn't think they'd win 7 games, and look at what they have done.
Well, I mean, my point was that I just saw the overall improvement of talent on this football team, and I just figured, well, they're going to have, some extra bodies out there, and I mean, just guys that can make more plays. But I never dreamed the Saints would win 11 ball games.
This time it's Doug Bryan lobbing it downfield, looking for a vacant area. Matthew Hatchett comes away with this one. There is another flag down. This would appear to be going against the Saints, possibly offsides. Vikings will refuse the penalty, take the football, and run out the final 2 minutes and 4 seconds of this game.
23, kicking team, penalties decline. First down.
And when you look at the way this team has been able to judge talent, to get production out of a very slim draft, You think about what it will be like this year with a full complement of draft choices on hand and the ability to work free agency as Randy Mueller and Jim Haslett showed that they could so quickly.
Absolutely. And, another thing, they know that they've got themselves a pretty good football team out there. And going into this draft and this year's free agency, they will know what holes need to be plugged. They went into last year and said, all right, we got to get a quarterback. And they did that and said, we got to get a run stuffer. They did that. But it was just the way that the other pieces of the puzzle just came in and worked so much better than anybody had ever anticipated.
Bobby Brister, the new quarterback, handing to a backup running back for very little gain. That's Harold Morrow, fifth-year man out of Auburn, who gets the carry as we have reached the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes remaining in this Saints season while the Vikings move ahead with the possibility of a Super Bowl chance still looming, pending next week's game for the NFC Championship. 2 minutes left. Vikings on top of the Saints, 34-16. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Hi, this is Bob.
No challenges this half. Probably won't have one and won't have any the rest of the year. But if we ever did have another one, it would be brought to you by Hibernia National Bank, the official bank of the Saints. Make Hibernia your official bank and trust all your financial needs with the one you know. That's Hibernia, where service matters.
Challenge for the Vikings is just to run out the final 2 minutes of this game that they have controlled throughout. Bubby Brister handing it off to Morrow. And he is brought down by Mathis after a short gain inside the 40-yard line. Saints have a timeout left. Should they choose to use it, doesn't appear that they will. The Vikings will look at 3rd and 7 from the New Orleans 39. Well, I'll tell you what, they say Brian Urlacher and Mike Anderson were the rookies of the year this year in the NFL. I think the rookie of the year in the broadcast booth sits to my right, and that is Hokie Gajan. It's been a pleasure having you with me this year and with us. It's been a pleasure to share the booth with you. It's been a great season, one I've never enjoyed more, and you were a large portion of that. I really appreciate your efforts.
Now, these words coming from the heart, or is this a bunch of your BS that you're giving me? That's what I want to know. Because, in all your pregame commentaries and everything else, you dog me and my family and everything else, and you come out with something like that at the end, and I'm supposed to believe it?
It's the Christmas spirit.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a dream come true for me, too, just to follow this team all year long from day one in Thibodeau to right now. And, I heard Kenny a while ago talking about Norman Hammond's over there crying. This team has got absolutely nothing to hang its head about. These guys played above and beyond, really what they were capable of in a lot of circumstances. But, it's just been a dream season, and my hat goes off to all these players, to Randy Mueller, everybody in the front office, and Jim Haslett and his staff, because they have made it enjoyable for everybody.
Berger punts it away, hits at the 6, bounds into the end zone for the touchback in 23 seconds. Now 22 remain on the clock, as the Vikings have taken a very impressive victory here today by a score of 34-16.
Well, and the Vikings are a team, they're at the opposite end of the scale of the Saints. They're a team that they're an established football team. They're in the playoffs every year. They got the big pieces of their puzzle all together. They go into the draft looking for guys to be backups, whereas opposed to the Saints, that when they went into last year's draft, they're saying, we got to come out of this draft with starters. And you don't want to have too many rookies as starters unless these guys are really something phenomenal. And I think that what Darren Howard has done, what Terrell Smith has done, what Chad Morton has done, Michael Hawthorne, all those guys have come in and really contributed well to this football team.
Chad Morton gets the call on the run up to the 27-yard line, and the Saints don't have to run another play. They'll let the clock run out and go over to congratulate the Minnesota Vikings, and congratulate them they should, because that was a sound victory in every phase of the game that the Vikings and Dennis Green put on Jim Haslett and the New Orleans Saints today. This was beyond and above expectations for the Saints to get this far. For the Vikings, quite honestly, unless they get to the Super Bowl, it'll be below the expectations of most of these fans. Dennis Green has gotten them that spoiled with 8 playoff berths in his 9 seasons.
And they know what kind of talent they got out here. They got the best tandem of receivers in the league. They've got an up-and-coming quarterback that's going to be a great one. You got a heck of a running back there. You've got a good offensive line. What they will do, in free agency, once all the pro season is over for them, they'll look to fill some holes on their defense, and they will really be a solid football team.
Now the Saints will take some time off. Sleep deprivation eventually catches up to everybody, and It's a coaching staff that could probably rival Rip Van Winkle for a snooze that they've earned coming into this one. They've worked so hard for so long, and they'll take some time off, but probably not much knowing these guys, and then they'll go right back to work assessing talent, probably going over to the Senior Bowl and looking at the people over there and trying to make this a better football team after it came out of nowhere this year.
Let's take it right down to Kenny Wilkerson with a Beta Springs Water State sideline report. Kenny?
All right, thank you down here with Norman Hand. Norm, I know that you're very disappointed. At the same time, you guys don't have a lot to hang your heads about.
No, we don't. We just ran into a better team that's been in this situation, and they got the hats off. They came out here ready to play, and they made all the right plays, and we didn't.
Sure that the coaches and everybody are walking up and down the sidelines for the last few minutes saying, hey, you guys will be back.
We definitely will be back. I mean, it's a learning experience, For a lot of us guys, it's our first time in the playoffs, so I don't have to hang my head down for nobody. We came out here, we gave it all we got. They're just a better team than us.
Many will look for the veterans on this football team like yourself and some of the other guys as to how to come back from something like this and build on this in the offseason.
Yeah, we're not going to forget about this. I mean, like I said today, they were just a better team. They have a lot of playoff experience. We don't. It's a great ride this year. We have nothing to hang our heads down. I think we gave our fans something to cheer about, and we'll definitely be back. There's no quitting on this football team. We just got to get better in the playoffs. That's all.
Congratulations on a fine year, Norm.
All right, thank you.
All right, Norman Hand down here. I'll send it back upstairs to you guys for now.
All right, Kenny, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts as well this season. Congratulations on a great year. Hokie Gajan as well, Robert Carroll, Larry Matson, all the folks who contributed to this broadcast throughout the year. That's the end of the game with our score, the Vikings 34 and the Saints 16. We'll be back in 60 seconds with a wrap-up of today's contest on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Most of you know by now, Radiophone of New Orleans is now Alltel. But maybe you don't know about all the new goodies, like state-of-the-art digital network, new calling plans that have you covered locally and throughout the good old USA. I've touted the strengths of Radiophone for years as being the finest cellular phone service. Well, nothing's changed except the name. And Alltel has raised the bar with some new technology. Some of it is amazing. Call Alltel for details, and you'll see what the 21st century is all about.
Okay, man, listen up. This is Ronnie Burgess, and I'm going to tell you the secret to a happy relationship. You want to watch football? No problem. As long as you let your wife look at tennis. A tennis bracelet, that is, from Oakland Hall Jewelers on Metairie Road. These people really know fine jewelry, and they got the best selection and best prices around. So, for beautiful rings, necklaces, and oh yeah, diamond tennis bracelets, visit Oakland Hall Jewelers on Metairie Road and make someone happy.
Stick around for Coach Jim Haslett's locker room interview on WWL 870 AM.
And we welcome you back to the Metrodome. Kenny Wilkerson down here on the field with offensive tackle Kyle Turley. And Kyle, it won't be probably as long of an off season this year as it was last year.
No, probably not.
You guys are disappointed. It's a tough way for the season to end. At the same time, I mean, nobody in their wildest dreams, I know yourself, ever thought that you could even go this far, but you did. And I guess it came down to today. They made plays when they needed to.
Yeah, credit goes to the Vikings. I mean, they got some outstanding players on their offensive side of the football, and their defense stepped up today, and we just weren't able to capitalize on anything and get any momentum going. Credit to their team and their coaches.
It wasn't like, I don't think that they did anything with you guys that you weren't expecting.
No, I mean, they just have some playmakers, Chris Carter and Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper, and Robert Smith. I mean, you can't go wrong with that crew, and they had their A game today, and it's hard to go up against that in their home stadium.
Have a lot to build on with this, with the season, not just today, but the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of for this organization. We've accomplished more this year with a bunch of no names than this organization has done in its whole existence. So we have a lot to be proud about and improve upon towards the end of this offseason and go into next season and be more powered. We're going to get a lot of guys back. Cam Cleveland's going to be back, and Ricky's going to be healthy, and it's Joe Horn, everybody. I mean, it's going to be a good season next year, and we're excited about it.
Congratulations on fine year, Kenny. All right, Kyle Turley down here. I'll send it back upstairs to you guys.
All right, well, not much you can say about this one, Hokie. There's a lot to talk about, and we will do that back in the locker room and back up here throughout the evening here as we wind this thing down, the season and so on. But I guess the best thing we can do right now is say once again the final score was 34-16 Vikings. Stay tuned for the post-game show, which will be coming up next, right here on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
It's a wrap on today's Saints football action on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. Brought to you by Hibernia National Bank, the official bank of the Saints. Louisiana Lottery Corporation. What a game. Your local Dodge dealers, proud sponsors of Saints football. Check out Dodge's new starting lineup. Abita Springs Water Company, the official bottled water of the Saints. The Oath. We've performed a bureaucratectomy on health care. The Oath, our promise to Louisiana. And by Big Shot Soft Drinks, 16 great flavors. Today's Saints game was also brought to you by these local sponsors. Alltel, simplifying communications. Brewery Fresh Budweiser reminds you fresh beer tastes better. General Motors, the official vehicle of the Saints. And by Allstate Insurance Company. Put your life in our hands. And the point after with Buddy T on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
House of Blues. New Orleans' premier nightclub and restaurant invites you to feed your body and your soul. Cook it in the kitchen. Experience the best Southern-style cuisine outside of your mama's house. Memphis barbecue ribs, jambalaya, smothered pork chops, banana bread pudding, and more. Open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, late-night dining. Reservations available every Friday. Backyard Blues Happy Hour. Drink specials and the best in local blues. The House of Blues, 225 Decatur Street in the French Quarter.
Hi, this is Bob Del Giorno. Join me mornings, Monday through Friday, for the WWL 870 AM Early Morning News. We'll keep you informed minute to minute on breaking news, traffic developments, sports follow-ups, and the latest weather information, plus things to do around town. Our goal, to get you off to a great start and put you where you're going on time. So, join me and the largest radio news team in the Gulf South for the Early Morning News, 5 to 9 weekday mornings here on WWL 870 AM.
From the New Orleans Saints Radio Network, this is the Dodge Locker Room Show. Stick with us for Kenny Wilkerson's one-on-one with Jim Haslett, the players and coaches take on the game, and game highlights. Brought to you by your friendly Dodge dealers. Dodge, different. Abita Springs Water, the official bottled water of the Saints. Cintas, the uniform people. Rouse's Market, Louisiana's best. And by SportsWorldOfTheSouth.com, the official online retailer of the Saints. Also by these local sponsors. Oakwood Hart Jewelers, the official jewelry store of the Saints. Discount Auto Parts, the right part right away. Castrol and Walmart. Land and Marine Services, providing drug-tested workers when you need them where you need them. And by Dr. Henry Haley of the Eye Surgery Center. Stick around for your chance to step up and take the mic with Buddy T. Up from the press box, it's Larry Matson on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Dome, everyone. Larry Matson with you. Hokie Gajan, time to name the Task Force Staffing Services Star Performer of the game. And, well, I tell you what, you had a couple of guys. Willie Jackson had 9 catches, 125 yards. Chad Morton, 10 catches, 82 yards. Ran it 5 times for 25 more.
Yeah, and that's not even taking into consideration, his punt return yardage. So, I mean, I think Chad gets a nod this week. I mean, he touched the ball a bunch of times this game. He was still running hard at the end of the ball game. Even though the Saints are pretty well out of it. And, he's kind of had a little dry spell here lately, namely because of that separated shoulder that he had. But he came out today and he performed well and he played his heart out. And I think Chad should be voted as the Task Force Staffing Services Player of the Game.
And that's who it'll be. And if you need a star performer for an hour, a day, a week, or even a month, call Task Force Staffing Services. We'll take the time out with more post-game notes and comments coming up on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Hi, folks. Hokie Gajan here for Napa Auto Parts. Napa is proud to sponsor the Saints as they go marching into the playoffs as the NFC Western Division champions. Napa has great things in store for you in 2001, like our new instant giveaway promotions where you can receive items like the NASCAR Heat computer game, Napa t-shirts and footballs, and more just for visiting Napa and making a purchase. Watch for more information coming soon. Napa Auto Parts, proud sponsors of the NFC Western Division champion New Orleans Saints.
What have we got? 15-year-old says he doesn't care anymore.
Oh, my goodness.
It's managed care.
Oh, no.
Let's get some help here.
It's in pretty bad shape.
Look at that mess of paperwork.
We need to get rid of it. Stat.
He's bleeding pretty badly.
Let's clamp the MBAs.
We need more doctor input.
Hang in there. We're doctors.
You're going to be okay.
Managed care needed a second opinion. Introducing The Oath, where people come first. Doctors' integrity is respected, information is available, questions get answered. The Oath, our promise to Louisiana.
Looking to save more and spend less this holiday season? With the Jeep Holiday Sale, you can do just that. Because right now, you'll save big with low financing, generous cash allowances, or incredible lease rates on a huge selection of new Jeep vehicles. So take advantage of the Jeep Holiday Sale for savings that let you spend more on a real holiday priority, yourself. See your Jeep dealer today. Jeep, there's only one, and it's a registered trademark of Daimler Chrysler.
To project a professional image, you've got to have the right uniform. Take a race car driver. His uniform says he's a highly trained competitor. Without the uniform, he's just some guy that keeps cutting people off in traffic. The right uniform can do a lot for your business, too. We're Cintas, the uniform people, and it's our job to make your employees look and feel great. Call Cintas today at 1-800-CINTAS1. After all, image is everything, and a nice pair of pants never hurt either.
Home of New Orleans' own Andre and Buddy T. WWL 870 AM.
Once again, back in the Metrodome. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of this one. I'll give you the scoring by the quarters. Vikings 10-3 at the end of one. Vikings 17-3 at the end of the half. 27-10 at the end of three quarters, and 34-16 the final. The only two real highlights for the Saints as far as big plays during the game happened in the second half. The first one, after the Saints fell behind 24-3, the Saints capped off an 8-play, 83-yard drive, knocking off 4 minutes of time of possession with this touchdown pass.
First and goal from the Minnesota 2-yard line. Seam formation, ends in tight. Tailback is Allen. Play action. Brooks rolls right. Stops. Looks back to his left. Throws back in the end zone. Touchdown. Caught in the back of the end zone by Dave Stahelski. That's Dave Stahelski's maybe his first offensive play for the Saints this year. I mean,
and it was his first touchdown catch, first catch in the NFL, and he'll remember that one a long time in the playoffs. Then Willie Jackson had a big game today. As we mentioned, 9 catches, 125 yards. In the fourth quarter, he capped off a 3-play, 66-yard drive with a 48-yard reception.
Here's Brooks throwing long, this time to Jackson. Jackson's got it inside the 20. Breaks a tackle, 10, 5. Willie Jackson, touchdown. Well, it was a big play by Aaron Brooks. I mean, the Vikings had kind of gotten a little bit into a lethargic mode, saying, okay, well, you know, he's just going to dump the ball over the middle. That time he kind of hits him with the big play down to Willie Jackson, across the middle. And again, that great run after catch ability.
And again, a 2-point conversion failed, and that's the way the game ended up at 34-16 Vikings. More post-game notes and comments coming up on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Hey, taxi!
Valley View Medical Center.
You all right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see my doctor.
That's a new one.
Well, I can't wait to ask him about a new once-a-day medicine for type 2 diabetes called Glucophage XR. Even though I eat right and exercise, I still need better blood sugar control. And, well, I think adding new Glucophage XR can really help.
New Glucophage XR, huh?
Yeah, it's like Glucophage, the #1 prescribed pill for lowering blood sugar. But you can take new Glucophage XR just once a day. So lowering your blood sugar is more convenient. Of course I'm excited. Oh, great, we're here. Hey, here's a nice tip.
Save it. Listen, I've got diabetes too, and this new Glucophage XR, it's the best tip I've gotten all day.
Glucophage XR Metformin HCl extended release tablets is available only by prescription, so ask your doctor if it's right for you. Glucophage XR is not for everyone. In rare cases, Glucophage XR may cause lactic acidosis, buildup of lactic acid in the blood, which is serious and can be fatal in half the cases. This occurs mainly in people whose kidneys are not functioning properly. Tell your doctor about your alcohol use because it can affect your risk. You should not take this drug if you have kidney problems, are 80 or older, unless your kidneys are tested, are taking medication for heart failure, or have had liver disease. The most common side effect is diarrhea. For more information, see our ad in People magazine. Call 1-877-412-7175 or visit glucofagexr.com.
Hey, next year has finally arrived. The Saints are still alive in the playoffs. And that means Domino's Saints Special, $6 off the menu price of your pizza order every Monday after a Saints game, is still in effect. Last Monday was New Year's, and Domino's was open and dishing out Saints Specials. This Monday, call Domino's for a quick pickup or delivery. Domino's is loading up the wagon. $6 off your pizza order every Monday after a Saints game. Touchdown, Domino's. It's a win-win. Domino's message is, go Saints.
For your drive to and from work, traffic and weather together on the 8s on WWL.
Welcome back to the Dodge Locker Room Show on the Saints Radio Network. No injuries to report, thank goodness. Everyone seems to have come out of this one okay, and we'll be ready for next year. All the players, of course, that were held out, Joe Hone, for example, did not play, so he was hurt before the game and was hopefully to get him in, couldn't do it. Today's Saints Injury Report brought to you by Tulane Institute of Sports Medicine. If you're hurt, go see the experts at Tulane Institute of Sports Medicine. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
From the heart of the Crescent City, this is WWL New Orleans, an Entercom communication station, AM 870, the news, talk, and sports leader.
And once again, all players interviewed in the locker room receive a gift certificate from Oakland Heart Jewelers. Shop where the Saints shop. It's Oakland Heart Jewelers on Metairie Road. Hokie, I wrote down some numbers here. 68, 53, 34, 23, 20, and 19. Those are some of the catches that the Vikings made today. 68 and 53 being for scores. And then a 30-yard run by Culpepper, a 21-yard run by Smith, who was really bottled up except for that one run. But it was the big plays really on third downs and the big conversions like that they made.
Yeah, and that's something that the Saints did a real good job of all year long. Sure, they gave up big plays here and there, but in this particular game, they gave up 4, maybe 5 of them. If you include the one, the Chris Carter down there in the end zone, Randy Moss burns him with the 2 long touchdowns. On 3rd and 1, Robert Smith takes off up the middle, gets a big gainer out of there. Culpepper sitting there in the 3rd and long situation, drops back and scrambles out of the pocket for 30 yards. And then again, if you count the touchdown pass to Chris Carter, and it was too much to overcome. And I also think the fact that the Vikings have been in this situation before, that their defense has been much maligned this year, that these guys kind of came out and felt that they had something to prove, got their bodies healed up during the bye week, and they came out here and they didn't look like a bad defense today. Now, whether their defense can hold up throughout the playoffs, kind of hard to say, because the Saints were pretty well a one-dimensional football team today. They really couldn't run the football because they got behind the 8 ball and got behind the score-wise so early that they had to just rely on throwing the football, but they looked like a pretty good team today.
Chris Carter, 8 catches, 119 yards unofficially with a touchdown. Seemed like of those 8 catches, seemed like 6 of them must have been on 3rd and long.
Yeah, and it seemed like they all went for first downs. I mean, the guy, he just continues to amaze you. I mean, he doesn't have the great speed, but he's just so clever, and he runs his route so well. And if you can get the ball out there in a situation where he can put his hands on it, he will catch it.
And we're going to take another break here. More post-game notes and comments coming up here on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Some resolutions are hard to keep.
I'll go on a diet, maybe tomorrow.
Others are easy. I resolve to save more money. Start now by getting to the Chrysler year-end event. Choose a low lease rate on the all-new Chrysler Town & Country or the award-winning Chrysler 300M. Get big cash allowances on Chrysler Concorde, LHS, or Neon. So skip the difficult resolutions.
I will work out every day. Okay, every other day.
And make resolutions you can keep, like being on time to the Chrysler year-end event at your Chrysler dealer.
Over time, you've worked hard to build equity in your home. At Hibernia, we work hard to build equity in relationships, so we can offer solutions that fit your needs, like Hibernia Home Equity Loans. They offer competitive rates, and for a limited time, we'll waive normal application fees and closing costs. Apply today at www.hibernia.com. Call 1-888-855-BANK or visit any Hibernia banking office. Hibernia, where service matters. Equal housing lender, normal credit qualifications apply.
Hey guys, I'm Mackie Shulstone with another H2O info message. Do you know that drinking water is one of the best ways to keep your body healthy? Dehydration can decrease organ function and increase fatigue. You can avoid these health risks just by drinking more water. Abita Springs water is a delicious way to refresh your body and keep it healthy. Call your local Abita man today.
For delivery every 2 weeks, call Abita Springs Water or visit our website at abitasprings.com.
Abita Man can. Abita Man can. Abita Man can. This is the captain. You're free to move around the cabin.
I'm not playing around.
Sir, what's wrong?
I forgot one hot number. The new $2 instant scratch game. You could win up to $25,000.
$25,000?
Play one hot number. The new $2 instant scratch game from the Louisiana Lottery. If any of your hot numbers in black match either winning number, win the prize for your matching number. If any of the matching your hot numbers are in red, win double its prize. Ask for one hot number. Top prize, $25,000. Must be at least 21 to purchase.
Is that a parachute?
Stick around for Coach Jim Haslett's locker room interview on WWL 870 AM.
Welcome back to the Dodge Locker Room Show on the Saints Radio Network, high above the stadium here. Well, not that high in the Metrodome, but let's go down to the locker room, and we've got a player with Kenny Wilkerson.
All right, thank you, Larry. Down here with cornerback Kevin Matheson. Kevin, I mean, those guys, they are a very good football team regardless of how they close out the regular season.
Yeah, they came out, they're explosive. They made plays. That was this in the game. They made plays and we didn't.
There's no question that there's been a lot of things happen this year that nobody expected with all the injuries. More and more players kept stepping up. You're part of that mix. Everybody seems that everywhere you turned around, people were playing and stepping up. There's a lot that can be built on from not just this, but from the regular season.
Yeah, that's the type of team, a lot of guys out there competing, and that's every day, and that's why we never lost a step when somebody went down, because the next guy was always ready for his turn.
For a player like yourself, I mean, obviously you'll be able to, I guess, bring a lot to some of these players. You've been through a lot of situations in your career, and it's the experienced players that a lot of people will be looking towards.
Yeah, the main thing we got to do is continue to work in the off season, man. After this game here, we got to, we'll look at the film tomorrow and put it behind us and get ready for the new year.
I would have to think that, even though it's disappointing that the off season is now here, the off season can be quite promising now.
Yeah, we got a lot of, good things out of this season. A lot of guys didn't expect for us to be where we are, and I think expectations will be pretty high, and I know a lot of these guys are ready to get back on there and feel it.
What did Jim Haslett say?
I just say, pretty much just, those guys made plays today, and, we wasn't expected to be here, and other people didn't expect, but we thought we could be here, and we can play with these guys anytime, so they just came out and played a better game today.
Congratulations on a fine year, Kevin.
Thanks.
All right, Kevin Mathis down here. Larry, I'll send it back up to you. Now, Jim Haslett is also still with the press. Obviously, he was with his football team for quite a while, and he has made his way over to the press conference. When he's done with that, we'll be getting him back in here in the locker room. Larry?
All right, thank you very much. Talked with Irv Cross before today's game, the former CBS commentator who is an AD up this way and working for Fox on the local station here, and talked with Paul Tagliabue before the day's game, and they were both very excited and happy for the New Orleans fans and New Orleans having a team getting this far along, and felt that they had a good chance. We all did, but unfortunately it ends today. More post-game notes and comments coming up on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Discount Auto Parts presents When Good Parts Go Bad. Today's story, a brake pad that reached the end of its road.
What can I say? I just went downhill, and so did the car. I mean, once I got going, I couldn't stop. My friends would call me names like Good for Nothing and Squeaky. It was a horrible experience.
When parts go bad, stop by Discount Auto Parts. Assuming you can stop, that is. We've got thousands of parts in every store. Discount Auto Parts. The right part, right away.
George Brooks again for Land and Marine Services. When the Saints need players, they go to the draft, free agent market, or look for a trade. When land, dock, or offshore companies need help, they call Land and Marine Services for their workers. You can make the right call, too. Call Land and Marine Services at 242-1988. That's 242-1988. Land and Marine delivers drug-tested, skilled, and unskilled workers when you need them, where you need them.
Yo, what took you so long? Man, Rally's was jammed. All right, one Screamin' Chicken Ranch for me and one Screamin' Chicken Classic Barbecue for you. Killer. All right, turn on the game. One game coming up. Hey, is there any change? No, no change.
We'll be right back after this. Today's game is brought to you by Rally's Hamburgers. Rally's, with 2 new Screamin' Chicken Strip Sandwiches. Try the ranch, with strips of tender all-white meat chicken, red ripened tomatoes, crispy lettuce, and tangy ranch dressing. Or try the classic barbecue, with strips of tender all-white meat chicken, sauteed onions, delicious lettuce, pickles, and smoking barbecue sauce. And for a limited time only, when you buy one Screamin' Chicken Sandwich, you'll get a second one free.
Free? Hey, where's my change?
What change?
What change? Dude, they're buy one, get one free.
Yeah, mine was the free one.
No way.
Hey, yeah, man. Look, cough up my change, dude. Hey, man, back off.
Give it to me.
Hey, calm down.
Give me my change.
Ow.
Riley's new Screamin' Chicken Strip Sandwiches. Buy one, get one free at participating locations.
The most news, the best talk, the Saints, Tulane, and LSU on WWL.
Once again, welcome back to the Dodge Locker Room Show here on the Saints Radio Network, waiting for the availability of Jim Haslett down in the locker room. Once he's available, we'll be going back down there. Hokie, I got to tell you, you were a rookie coming in. You performed well, and you ended up becoming an impact player for us, and you did a great job. I'll put you up for All-Pro at the end of this year.
Well,
this is the end of the year, by the way.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that, Larry. I tell you, I mean, it's really been fun. The fact that I grew up right there in Baton Rouge, from the time that the Saints came into existence. I've always been a Saints fan. Got the opportunity to play for them, got the opportunity to work for them, now getting the opportunity to cover for them. I mean, I was just thrilled to death with this football team for what they did this year, because unlike some people that thought they did it with smoke and mirrors, I think they did it with just some good old-fashioned hard work and playing good, solid football. And it carried them just so far, because as the talent pool started going down with all the injuries, I mean, it finally got to where they just couldn't overcome things anymore. But, I mean, anybody that's ashamed of what this football team did coming in here today, getting beat by a substantial margin of 34-16, saying, well, they didn't put up a very good effort, I think it would be very wrong to say that, because these guys have fought hard all year, and they fought hard today. They just got beat by some big plays today.
When we talked about this football season coming up back in August when we were here in this Metrodome, we talked about it being a long season, and Kylie here, they extended an extra couple of weeks, and it seems like it went by like in a blur. I mean, it seemed like it was just a few weeks ago, that it was really months ago that we were here in the Metrodome.
That's right. I mean, that's, and when you look back on it and say that, it did go by fast. I mean, the Saints played the most games that they've ever played in the season before. Played 18 games this year, and I think it's just it was a remarkable turnaround from a 3-13 year last year, and I mean, they definitely got a bright future ahead. I think for the most part, they got the majority of their guys, signed up for the next couple of years. They'll keep their marquee players, and this front office, the people that are in the personnel part of it, I mean, they know how to evaluate talent, and they'll do a good job in the draft, and they'll do a good job in free agency.
And that's something that I think that all Saints fans will be looking forward to see what kind of moves will be made. There's going to be a lot of questions that have to be answered and a lot of questions that will be answered. And this group doesn't wait around. They're proactive. They'll answer some questions in a hurry and make some decisions. And they seem to make the right decisions.
And that's what I was going to say. Probably the best thing about it is when a question, arises, they come up with the right solution to it.
So it's amazing what they've been able to do, and when you consider the backup players that played so well, that bodes well for the future too. Even though you're going to have to bring in some new people and some new personnel and fill in some areas, that those people are very capable that are going to be backing up. So
absolutely,
that's really good. Well, let's go down to the locker room now. The Jim Haslett locker room interview is brought to you by Discount Auto Parts. The right part right away. Here's Kenny Wilkerson.
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Down here with Coach Haslett, and Jim, I know you're disappointed. At the same time, I'm sure you're very proud of this football team.
Well, yeah, obviously we're disappointed, but I told the team that you should hang their heads high. They've accomplished a lot this season, and it's a great foundation for what we're going to do in the future. And we did further expectations more than we broke more expectations than anybody would ever thought we could do. So I'm proud of them. I wish we could have got this. I know this is a learning, it's a building block for us, but at least. I think it'd be good for us in the future what happened today.
It really came down to, in this game in particular, they made some plays. I mean, that's a good football team out there regardless of how they wrapped up the regular season.
Well, they made plays in the first half, and we didn't. We were in a situation where we could have made a couple plays. We didn't. They made the same plays. They turned short plays into big plays. We had a chance for an interception. We got some penalties early. Dropped a couple balls that hurt us. And then second half, we fell apart, but we didn't play as well as we could have.
Jim, you've been a part of an awful lot of different types of football teams that have gone maybe one step even further than this and one step less than this. How does this compare, and how far, how much of a building block is this season to the future?
Well, I think, obviously you got all our core players intact, and we won't lose any of those to free agency. There's a lot of guys, a couple guys we'd love to have back. There's some guys that obviously probably move on their way because that's the way this business is. But I still think the next couple of years you can judge us. We get through some draft picks, and the coach is going to take some time off here. We're going to go to the Senior Bowl, and then we can get some rest and then get back at it.
Yeah, that's one thing you've talked about for a long time as well. That it's going to take time, and you need, everybody needs to be able to have draft choices and grab more free agents as time goes by.
Well, we need to get more weapons and players who can score touchdowns. And not to say we don't have enough, but I think the more you have, the better you're going to be.
Regardless of how this turned out today, you guys know you are heroes back in New Orleans.
Well, I'm extremely proud of this football team, and hopefully, like I said, I think this is a building block to the future.
Thank you, Jim. Congratulations on a fine year.
Thank you.
All right, that's Jim Haslett down here, and I believe we will be wrapping it up from the locker room and signing off from down here for now, Larry.
All right, Kenny, really enjoyed working with you, and thanks for bringing me back and helping me get back into this thing. And Hokie, it's been a pleasure working with you and Robert Carroll and Walt Pierce and Gary Baylor early in the year in the preseason, and all the people that helped put this broadcast together back home. We really have enjoyed being together as a group, as a team ourselves in this booth. And the executive producers of the New Orleans Saints Radio Network are Diane Newman and Craig Jacobus. Today's game has been produced by Larry Matson, engineered and directed by Robert Carroll. Network studio coordinators are Bob Frost, that's the Frosty Man back in the studio, and Marc Chifici as well. The network chief engineer is Steve Portier, and the assistant network engineers are Dominic Mitchum and Steve Hurstel. Saints network coordinator has been Jeff Grieve all year, and director of Saints network sales, DePaul Smith, who was in our booth today. And we won't be around next week, but we will be around this coming 2001 season, and we hope to have you again with us right here on the Saints Radio Network. For Jim Henderson, Hokie Gajan, Kenny Wilkerson, and the rest of our broadcast crew, this is Larry Matson saying thanks for being with us here on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
And I say to myself, what a wonderful year.
It's a wrap on today's Saints game. Coming up next, the point after with the big daddy of sports, Buddy D. Today's Dodge Locker Room show on the Saints Radio Network was brought to you by your friendly Dodge dealers. Dodge, different. Abita Springs Water, the official bottled water of the Saints. Cintas, the uniform people. Rouse's Market, Louisiana's best. And by SportsWorldOfTheSouth.com, the official online retailer of the Saints. Also by these local sponsors. Oakland Hart Jewelers, the official jewelry store of the Saints. Discount Auto Parts, the right part right away. Castrol and Walmart. Land and Marine Services, providing drug-tested workers when you need them where you need them. And by Dr. Henry Haley of the Eye Surgery Center. Open lines on Saints football with Buddy Diliberto on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network. From the New Orleans Saints Radio Network, this is the Point After with Buddy D. To size up today's game, call area code 504-260-1870. Your chance to chat is brought to you by your local Jeep dealers. There's only one. Turning Leaf Vineyards. Whether you're having a formal dinner or just sitting around with friends. Louisiana Lottery Corporation. What a game. And by Domino's Pizza, delivering the best in pizza value. Also by these local sponsors. The Point After on WWL 870 AM is brought to you by Finish Line Off-Track Betting Parlors, Discount Auto Parts, the right part right away, River Parish Disposal, our business stinks, but it's picking up, your local Lincoln Mercury dealers, and by Alltel, simplifying communications. If you're an Alltel cellular subscriber, dial BUD. That's 283, and your call is free. It's time for you to score the game on the Point After with Buddy D. Let it rip on the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
And it's Marc Chifici in for Buddy D. Don't worry, fans. Buddy's on his way. I'm kind of filling in a little audible here till Buddy gets behind the mic. Saints close out a magical season. They fall to the Vikings in Minnesota, 34-16. Minnesota, too many playmakers. Dante Culpepper, 3 touchdown passes. Randy Moss, touchdown receptions of 53 and 68 yards. Chris Carter, you saw what he did, a lot of big third down receptions. He catches a 17-yard TD reception. Robert Smith, a 2-yard TD run. Aaron Brooks kind of showed some of the inexperience today, a couple of interceptions. The Saints never got the running game going. Ricky Williams played a little bit, 18 yards on 6 carries, and the Saints just finally met a better team in the playoffs. Doesn't take away from the great season. They finish 11-7. They fall today 34-16, but a magical season for the Saints. Jim Haslett, obviously the coach of the year this year. And what do you think about the game today and about this great season and what a bright future this franchise has? The number 260-1870 right here on the New Orleans Saints Network. And let's go right to the call lines, and let's go to Mike on the Avenue. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
Good.
Obviously, a real quick take on the game. There was no defensive pressure on their quarterback.
The front four didn't put heat on the quarterback, and they were afraid to blitz because of those receivers they had to cover, and that was a big problem. Not heat on the quarterback and not very good coverage in the secondary also.
Gave up some big plays, and we didn't get any turnovers. I think that's the story of the game in a nutshell. The story of the day is not the game, though. The story is the season. And I'm sure a lot of the callers will call in and say that they were proud of this team, and well, they should be, and well, we all should be. But I'd like to amplify on one point that Buddy made in the pregame show, and it's not just the team that rose above everything this season, that overcame unbelievably crippling injuries, exceeded expectations far beyond what anybody could imagine. But I think you really have to put take your hat off to the people of New Orleans and the people of Louisiana. I mean, we have the most passionate people in the country. I've had the pleasure of traveling around the country. There are not fans, Mark, anywhere in the country like we have in New Orleans. And there's going to come a day, and I think it'll be in the next 2 or 3 years, when we're going to have the ultimate Mardi Gras party in the Super Bowl. And the people of New Orleans will be rewarded. So I think the final message is we should be very proud of this team, but never be fully satisfied until we get to the big dance and win it. And I really think that this coaching staff and this administration and this team can do it. And so I say to everybody, have some patience, be happy with what happened this year, but don't be quite satisfied, because I think these men are all going to wear rings before it's all over.
Hey, Mike, well said. Thanks for the call. 260-1870, the number. Saints fall in the playoffs 34-16 to the Vikings. We'll be right back with Buddy D. You're listening to the New Orleans Saints Radio Network.
Some resolutions are hard to keep.
I'll go on a diet, maybe tomorrow.
Others are easy.
I resolved to save more money.
Start now by getting to the Chrysler year-end event. Choose a low lease rate on the all-new Chrysler Town & Country or the award-winning Chrysler 300M. Get big cash allowances on Chrysler Concorde, LHS, or Neon. So skip the difficult resolutions.
I will work out every day. Okay, every other day.
And make resolutions you can keep, like being on time to the Chrysler year-end event at your Chrysler dealer.
Hello, fans. This is Bob Felker speaking for the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Today's athletes depend on a well-balanced diet to give them the extra burst of energy they often need, and today's beef fits right in. Beef can do the same for you. It will add zip to your diet. That's zinc, iron, and protein. So for a nutritious and delicious meal, remember beef. It's what's for dinner. This message has been brought to you by Louisiana's 50-cent beef checkoff and the cattle producers of Louisiana.
A uniform says a lot about who you are. Take a bellman. With his uniform, he's a courteous hotel employee. Without it, he's a stranger walking away with your luggage. Uniforms can say a lot about your employees, too. We're Cintas, the uniform people, and it's our job to make your employees look and feel great. Call Cintas at 1-800-CINTAS-1. With Cintas uniforms, your employees will look like a team of professionals. Without them, well, go take a look for yourself.
Let the good times roll. The new $5 instant scratch game from the Louisiana Lottery. Top prize $100,000. Win up to 18 times on each ticket. Let the good times roll. Top prize $100,000.
Let the good times roll. Let the good times roll.
Must be at least 21 to purchase.
This is The Point After with Buddy D on your New Orleans Saints radio network. Call 504-260-1870.
Welcome to Point After. Buddy Diliberto live at the finish line in Kennet. It was a great ride, but in the end, the impost of numerous injuries finally took its toll on the Cinderella New Orleans Saints, and their race is over. But for once in this franchise's 34-year history, it can be said with a real sense of reality, wait till next year. What have we discovered this surprising season? Number one, the Saints have an outstanding young quarterback in Aaron Brooks, the kind of a young quarterback that can be a key in the turnaround of every franchise, and a quarterback capable of taking a team all the way. Two, the Saints have a solid, aggressive coaching staff, one that on a week-in, week-out basis is capable of matching wits and game plans that'll give the Saints an honest chance to win. Three, the Saints are solid in the trenches on both sides of the ball, the defensive and offensive lines. Four, Randy Mueller and his scouting department and pro personnel department have a keen eye for talent, and there's a good chance that with a draft and a few more middle-tier free agent pickups, the Saints will be stronger in 2001, especially with the acquisition, maybe another top wide receiver and defensive backfield help, either through the draft or free agency. Five, the Saints have not mortgaged their future. They're in decent shape, salary cap-wise, and have all of their key components under contract through the 2001 season. Yes, it's been quite a ride, but we're left with the feeling that the next race might be even better. All right, let's go to another listener line for Lori and Metairie. Lori, you're on The Point After.
Hi, Buddy.
Hi, Lori.
I'm at a Saints party in Destrehan at Cherie's house.
Uh-huh.
You know Cherie, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And we're not crying. We're very happy. We're very proud of the Saints. We're extremely proud that Mr. Benson has given us this opportunity. And we hope that he gives us another year to show the world that the Saints will win the Super Bowl. We will win it in New Orleans so that we can show them where the party really begins.
All right, Lori, thank you very much, and I'll guarantee you'll get that up. I'll have another chance next year. Let's go to Chalmette for Chris. Chris, you're on The Point After.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
All right.
It was a great season. I'm sorry to see it come to an end. We had a great time watching the game, everything. I got one question, and maybe if you can't answer it, maybe somebody else can. They showed one scene on television that when the Fox sidelines were Pam Oliver was on sidelines, somebody came around across and hit her. And if somebody can give us an answer to that, she came across and hit her on the elbow, and she turned around. And they never showed nothing more at halftime or anything. So maybe if you can't answer it, maybe somebody else can.
You mean what happened on the sidelines?
Right. A Viking player came across. We think it was Chris Carter. We weren't sure. I don't want to say it was him or not. Came across and hit her with a forearm. And we watched it. They showed it right before the half. We tuned it in. We turned off WWL to watch it to see if they said anything, and they didn't. And they showed her reaction to it that she turned around and was very upset about it.
Well, I saw Haslett jawing with Chris Carter at one time. Maybe that was the play you're talking about, but obviously no penalty was thrown. So I don't have a definitive answer on that question. They said we got an answer. Go to Marc. Marc Chifici back at the station. You got an answer to that
buddy,
question?
I saw that Carter coming up the line kind of tapped Pam Oliver, the Fox sideline reporter, on the arm, but she kind of looked back at the camera, had a fake grimace, and then smiled, and they joked about it in the post-game show, so there's really no story there. It's just a little showmanship.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's go to Mandeville for Doug. Doug, you're on The Point After.
Yeah, I was watching the Saints today, and, it was another example of how they... Hello?
I'm here. Keep talking.
They can't seem to, they can't seem to go ahead and close the gap. Can't seem to win the game. And I've been a season ticket holder since 1967. I was there when John Gilliam ran back that first touchdown. I was very excited that day. And since then, I don't know. I'm tired of
Doug, Doug, you sound like Doug, you sound like somebody that's disappointed today, but when you look in the mirror tomorrow, you'll say, Jesus, did I call for point after and make that statement? In other words, if you followed this team this year and knowing the acquisitions they made, knowing the game plans they had each week, knowing the injuries this team sustained, and to get to the second round of the playoffs, good Lord. I mean, in other words, you'd have to be a real world-class squirrel not to be satisfied with the season. Disappointed, absolutely. But you're going to be a world-class squirrel. Right now, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're really disappointed because you thought it might go on. But other than that, man, don't give me that stuff. That's bunk. We're going to continue with the point after, live from the finish line in Kenner. But first this.
Hi, this is Bob Belgiorno for Sports World of the South, the official online retailer of the New Orleans Saints. Sports World of the South has all your Saints Western Division championship gear online at NewOrleansSaints.com. Carter and Buck. They've produced a high-quality line of long and short-sleeved and collared NFC Western Division championship shirts. And nobody but Sports World of the South has them. Plus, Sports World of the South has Saints playoff score T-shirts. Sports World of the South, the official retailer of the Saints in New Orleans Center or online at NewOrleansSaints.com.
Catch Sports Talk with Buddy D. Now weekdays at 5 on WWL 870 AM. We're talking Saints football on the point after with Buddy D. Call 504-260-1870.
Welcome back to the point after. Buddy D live at the finish line in Kenner on Joe Yoney Boulevard. And I know I kind of took that other guy's head off a little bit. And I know some fans are very disappointed because everybody, I can understand the little disappointment, but don't let it get the best of your common sense. I mean, considering the injuries this team sustained, considering where they started from and everything, it was just one of those remarkable Cinderella-type seasons, and it came to an end, that's all. And they didn't make plays when they had the opportunities, but, man, with all the promise of next year, when you don't figure to have as many injuries and when you figure to get some more additions and everything, and you got the solid coaching staff, God, I guarantee you, I can't wait till next year. And this time, I'm really saying it with a degree of reality. Let's go to Bush, Louisiana for Richard. Richard, you're on the point after.
Hey, Hap, good talking to you. Listen, I just want to wish you a Happy New Year. First of all, kudos to the Saints this year and the big year they had this year. Two quick scenarios. Number one, I think the Saints should have kicked a field goal towards the end of the first half. Like I said before, about 12 weeks ago against Seattle, because you and I had a big blood argument about that. Number two, the Saints should trade Ricky Williams next year to the Bengals for Corey Dillon, because Corey Dillon never gets hurt. And they need a stud running back. What do you think about that, Hap?
Well, let me first of all, Hap's a dear friend, but he's deceased now, so consequently, maybe I sound like I'm deceased. I will say this. Marc Chifici is our producer back at the station, and he's very good. He's very good, but I told him in the break, I'll never take you squirrel hunting with me, because I sit down, and the first two people you give me are world-class squirrels. You heard that last guy? Okay. Hap, and then could have kicked a field goal at the end of the half. What was it, 50 yards? I don't know. And they want to trade Ricky Williams to the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's go to, I'm not putting the chance out of the realm of possibility that some type of deal was made, but it ain't going to be a swap Ricky Williams for Corey Dillon, because I don't think either team would do it. Let's go to Keith in Kenner. Keith, you're on Sports the point after. Hi, Keith.
Hey, buddy. I'm glad to see that the Saints have finally come of age. They hadn't gone all the way, but I'm glad to see it's better than a 6-10. It's better than those old seasons. So there's hope, buddy.
I think that's a good way to put it. They've come of age. I certainly think it's better than the good seasons they had under Mora, although they didn't reach the 12-win mark that Mora reached a couple of times. But I really think that they have come more of age now than they were when they were under Mora and had a couple of 12-win seasons.
Yeah, buddy, and like you say, the battle cry of the Saints, wait till next year. Hopefully, next year will be the year that we can go all the way. And that's about all I got to say about it, buddy.
Thank you very much. All right, Keith, thank you. Let's go to T-Bone. T-Bone, you're on the point after.
Buddy, where them other two callers come from, man? Where these guys are coming from? Talk to me.
I don't know. You know, if it was nighttime, I could understand because the squirrels go back up in the trees at nighttime. But usually, well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's still the daylight and they're running around the ground. Go ahead.
Two comments, buddy. I'd like your opinion on the defense. My opinion is the safeties and cornerbacks is about the weakest position on our defense.
Well, I think that's correct. I think generally they got two outstanding players in those positions. Fred Weary, who's lost with an injury for the season, and Sammy Knight at safety. All the other parts are replaceable, and I'm sure they're going to try and strengthen that position.
Absolutely. And one more thing, and I'll hang up, buddy, and Happy New Year to you. What do you feel the future is of Mark Fields? I know he's got a huge contract, and I know the defense that we're playing now don't really add up to his qualities, but to me, they're paying him a lot of money, and you don't hear his name called a whole lot. What do you think his future is with the...
I would think that if they decide they want to keep Mark Fields, they're going to try and restructure his contract. Now, if he resists that, I think a couple things could happen, a trade of some type, or even just an outright release, because right now, two people who have cap numbers that are unrealistic compared to what their production is for the 2001 season, Mark Fields, and Keith Poole.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, T-Bone.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Abdullah Tentmaker has arrived here at the finish line, so we'll have some, at least a little levity and song to, and I can't call it a depressing post-game show because it shouldn't be depressing because the way the season has gone. Let's go to Jim and Harvey. Jim, you're on the point after.
Buddy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing? I called you in September, and basically at the time we decided that if they were playing better in December, we'd consider it a success. We had to consider it a great success, considering it's January, and we're still talking about them. Bottom line, I'm thrilled. I've been a ticket holder since '67. I had 4 tickets this year, 8 the season before, and I think I'll get 12 next year. I'm a small business owner, and that's basically the lifeblood of this team, since there's no real big businesses here in New Orleans.
Jim, I like what you said, and I think that there's something that hopefully a lot of businesses will step up and do the same thing that you're talking about because, this year the season ticket base was around 36,000, and really I think with the promise and everything, hopefully it'll get up closer to the 50,000 mark as far as season tickets.
Well, about 2 weeks ago, we stepped up and bought 50 tickets, which was a big expenditure from our little company. But
Jim, what business do you have? I'd like to congratulate that business.
It's called Demand Publishing here in New Orleans, and we're a small company. We do a very specialized business and on a national market base, and we just thought, I get around the country all the time, and I see all these other cities, and I'm looking at us and saying, geez, we really got to step up to the plate to keep this team and be happy about it.
Jim, thank you very much, and I'm congratulate you on your business.
I do have one question, though.
All right.
Just an observation, and this is not a knock, because I'm thrilled to death. I can't be happier. Win or lose today, I told my wife going in, I said, geez, this could, we're sitting here watching on January. You can't be happier than that, win or lose. It just seems like down the stretch, it seems like the play call, and certainly on first down, got a whole lot more conservative, runs, up the middle, that kind of stuff. And, it seemed like they had attack mode earlier.
You know what my read on that is? I think that once Ricky Williams was lost, and then once Chad Martin got hurt, in the last 4 weeks, the other teams have really been cheating as far as on the Saints as far as the run. In other words, so basically, I kind of think that, maybe you could call it a little conservative, but I think that they weren't playing most of the times an honest defense, against an honest defense.
But why would they run? Yeah, why would they run in that situation?
Well, simply because their intent is to try and use the clock. In other words, all those things, and their determination is to run the football. They just weren't able to do it. Each week, though, it sort of reminds you a little bit of the Miami Dolphins under Jimmy Johnson. In other words, man, they wanted to run the football, and a lot of times they tried to run the football, and even when they didn't have the running back as they run the football, they kept trying to plug away, and I think that was the mindset.
Great.
But no, it was a good question on your part. I just think that for the first 2 weeks after Ricky was out, and they had Chad Martin with his quickness outside, and they had Gerald Moore and then Terry Allen. But once they lost that dimension, and most importantly, and boy is this important, the loss of Terrell Smith as a really lead blocker. That has been very, very... So I think those were the significant reasons, but certainly your observation was correct.
Great.
Thank you very much. And boy, am I glad Abdul arrived with a couple of wives. I thought he might come in with all boys, but at least he's got a couple of wives left. Thank goodness, because it'll be a good night. We're going to continue with the point after, live from the finish line in Kenner on Joe Yenny Boulevard, right off of Williams Boulevard.